with new technological and behavioral challenges threatening to undo the modicum of stability accomplished. As Socrates once said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. We have been fortunate to witness the greatest workplace transformation in the shortest span of time, as we saw leaders across the corporate landscape engage in discourse to find solutions to curb the disruption in the new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, we warmly welcome you to VISHLESHAN, the online management conclave of the Vinod Gupta School of Management, IIT Kharagpur, an enterprise that seeks to engage some of the brightest professional minds and industry stalwarts in a captivating deliberation to unlock answers to the pressing challenges of the current times. I'm Abhijit Suresh. And Shraddha Bhatt will be our host for this event. Before we convene the deliberations, we would like to take a moment to welcome all our distinguished guests, respected faculties, and inquisitive future managers who have been kind enough to spare time of their busy schedule and graciously consented to participate in this endeavor of ours. First and foremost, we would like to welcome our respected Dean, Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray. Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray holds vast experience in healthcare system optimization, service performance modeling, and ergonomics. Currently, he is acting as chief expert guiding APO sponsored project for 6 Asian countries. Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray holds various accolades to his name, and a few of them include PC Mahalanobis Award by ORSI, Distinguished Scholar 2013 IARS, and being a Distinguished Fellow of IEI and WPS. We will now request Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray, Dean of the Vinod Gupta School of Management, IIT Kharagpur, to share his insightful thoughts with us.
At the outset,
Pradeep, sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay. Very good morning to all of you. At the outset, on behalf of Vinod Gupta School of Management, on behalf of my faculty colleagues, and on my own behalf, I'd like to welcome you all to this important event called VISHLESHAN. I would also like to welcome very distinguished panelists, and I should name them: Mr. Digonnoto Chakraborty, Mr. Ankur Thailand, Mrs. Gaurika Tandon, Mr. Subhrot Sharma, Mr. Shivaditya Banerjee, and the moderator, Mrs. Rashmi Mansuramani. Thank you so much for gracing the occasion. And as you may be knowing that it is a very important event, and this event is being organized by the CMI cell of the Vinod Gupta School of Management. Now, it's my pleasure, it's my privilege to be a part of this system. And as you may be knowing that the teachers do exist because the students exist. If the students are not there, simply this teaching profession ceases to exist. So it's my heartfelt feeling that you have been taking so much interest in organizing such an event, and that's too in trying time, and it's very difficult. And as you will be knowing that whatever the events being taken place, or at this point in time, whatever the conditions you discuss, in fact, the common denominator is so-called the COVID-19 situation throughout the world, and possibly such a situation human civilization has never faced. Any system you talk about, whether the education system or organization, there are 100 types of organizations in the human civilization we've been carrying on, and we have been existing with all these organizations. Possibly for the first time, one particular event has affected the performance of all types of organizations. Now, obviously, even we say that it's a worst of time, simultaneously also it is the best of times. As you will be knowing that when the Charles Dickens uh, writes A Tale of Two Cities, the first two sentences in A Tale of Two Cities is, it was the best of time, it was the worst of time. So it is a different context. What I am telling you, the way you have selected this particular topic, that means the virtual workplace. And with respect to the virtual workplace, you have identified two important issues. One issue is basically the employee well-being. That means whatever may be the situation, you want to make the organization a human one. That is number one. And the number two is that the organizational performance, you have mentioned it as productivity, but actually productivity is just one of the dimensions of the organizational performance. There are many other dimensions. So the organizational performance is to be ensured, and so also the well-being of the employees. Now, the question is that if you can create a virtual workplace, and with creating the virtual workplace, if these two conditions are met, what we say that the organization becomes the robust. As you may be knowing, that the Japanese organizations, almost 60, 70 years ago, they have developed the robust product. They have also developed the robust process. Now, in today's context, what is most important is to develop a robust organization. And when you try to create, such a robust organization, that means your performance is to be ensured, whatever may be the effect of the external conditions, that is to be ensured. There are many models available, both quantitative as well as the qualitative. Now, what is most important is that today, this VISHLESHAN, or you can say that VISHLESHAN means essentially the analysis, or more specifically, it's in-depth analysis. Now, we are representing management school, and as you may be knowing that the management education has evolved through a number of stages. Some 60, 70, even 100 years back, we used to, in the context of management education, we used to refer to several types of scientific quantitative techniques. That was our focus. Today, what has happened, that our focus had been how to develop the human resources. What could be, the human resources had to be made available from different strata of the society, in any race, in any country, throughout the world. And what is to be ensured that the resources, are to be properly nourished, and for that education system, has to respond, particularly the management education system. So what we try to do, in today's context, that the management education focuses on the development of human resources with the application of several types of qualitative techniques. This is one. The second one is, that means, our focus has been management education, entrepreneurship, to meet the social needs, as well as the use of IT-based tools and techniques. Now, today, when you talk about the virtual, the workplace, you have to emphasize on how to use effectively many kinds of IT-based tools and techniques. That should be your focus. But essentially, you have to meet the social needs. Now, what is important is that against a particular management education, you have a syllabus, you have different modes of teaching. There is a teaching learning process. And this teaching learning process has to be made a robust one. and that is most challenging. That means, given a situation like the organizations have been facing at this point in time, are you equipped with several tools, techniques, approaches to deal with these problems? And as you may be knowing that in any management school, the interface with the business world, it interface with the industries, interface with many other types of organizations in the social system. The interface must be made very strong, very strong, as well as the flexible. So what do we talk about, that whether the organization can be made sustainable? And as you may be knowing that in a typical management the syllabus or the curriculum throughout the world, the sustainability aspect is emphasized, whether it's an economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, or the social sustainability. So, in today's context, during this trying time, what actually is focusing on, that yes, you have an economic performance that is to be guaranteed, but to what extent this economic performance is linked with the social aspects of the social sustainability. Now, as you may be knowing, because all these dignitaries, they represent different types of organizations. Now, the three things you have to ensure, whatever, whether it's a service organizations or manufacturing organizations, or say government organization, non-government organizations, or NGOs, whatever it is. So you have to define quality and you have to maximize quality. And second one is you have to define the cost, whether it is the life cycle costing or not. You have to define, and you have to minimize the cost. And the third one is you have to reduce your throughput time. These are the three main factors, assuming that you have an acceptable probability along with increasing market share. Okay, so and whether these values which today you achieve, whether under different conditions you can achieve. So I hope that this particular, the VISHLESHAN, the conclave, will focus on this, and particularly I suggest that you have a very intensive and what you can say extensive interaction with the panel's members, and to what extent, and particularly I request the panelists actually out of this Vishleshan program, whether they can, if you can highlight the main the requirements of the organizations at this particular stage, and to what extent we can respond by revising our curriculum, our the mode of teaching, or say taking up different types of students projects. So I hope that this interaction will be very positive. And as you may be knowing that from one perspective, you might say it is the best, it is the worst of time. But we should be very, the positive in our outlook. And we should say, yes, if there is, from one perspective, it is the worst of time. From another perspective, it is maybe the best of times. And when you talk about, this virtual, say the workplace, I am sure that if you are able to create these virtual, the workplace, ultimately, the organizational performance will be acceptable, and organization becomes robust. And so also it is a testing time for us, to what extent our management education system, which we are offering, whether this particular system is also robust or not. Okay, so I wish you the best, and I am sure that it's a 3-hour interactions, as far as from 10:30 to say 1:30, around 1:30, and I'm sure that when the time is limited, you perform, with maximum ability. That means like what the Japanese says, that that means you are 100% busy, and a busy person has always some time. Getting my point? So I hope that you have certain purpose to organize such an event, and the purpose will be served, and we'll all be happy. And this most important thing is the value addition. So out of this Vishleshan event, at the individual level, you test to what extent your value has been, increased. The value addition, entire education system is essentially the value addition, your core competency, and I am sure that these panelists, interaction to the panelists, will help you, say they become a better performer, a better, knowledgeable person, and obviously, you must have the ability. You will have the ability to take up such challenging problems. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you. I wish you the event the very best.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your ideas with us. It was indeed a holistic view of the current circumstances. It is indeed an apt start to the events to ensue. We're extremely grateful to you for your guidance and support.
We know that the entire glory of life at VG Zone cannot be captured in a video. However, we still try to capture a glimpse that we wish to share with you all.
The Vinod Gupta School of Management, IIT Kharagpur, founded in 1993 by a distinguished alumnus and lifetime fellow of IIT Kharagpur, Mr. Vinod Gupta, is the oldest B school in the IIT ecosystem. Striving to develop technology-driven future industry leaders, VGSOM offers programs which provide a unique blend of managerial and technological insights into the business world. With a rich legacy spanning over 25 years, VGSOM has grown holistically, winning several accolades, and has been consistently ranked amongst the top B schools in the country by several prestigious ranking bodies. The flagship program of VGSOM is a full-time residential program for graduate engineers and master's degree holders in science, economics, and commerce. Featuring a unique mix of lectures, case studies, group projects, and workshops, the institute is currently amongst the best in India. The diverse curriculum consists of a plethora of electives on both core managerial and technological courses. Moreover, it provides valuable industry exposure through a 2-month summer internship program.
VGSOM boasts of a highly experienced faculty fraternity from various fields of management, with most of them having prior industry and corporate experience. Through a unique mix of theoretical and case-based lectures, the faculty strives to bridge the gap between the students' skill base and the industry trends and expectations. Also, the faculty-to-student ratio is one of the best in the country, owing to the less batch strength, which helps in greater individual attention by the faculty towards the student.
A few of the central facilities that are accessible round the clock in the campus are Central Library with a dedicated online digital section, gymnasium, canteen and guest house, swimming pool, and other sports facilities. nurturing the holistic development of future business leaders and contributing significantly to management education over the last 2.5 decades. VGSOM is a trailblazer in the true sense. Banking on its technical expertise, IIT Kharagpur empowers VGSOM in terms of infrastructure, intellectual resources, and a rich alumni base. With a strong will to be the best in the country, VGSOM welcomes you to scale new heights and be a part in its never-ending service to the nation.
Kickstarting the
I'll be
primary event.
starting the discussion, and I would take the privilege to introduce our first guest today. Kickstarting the primary event of the day, without any further ado, join us in welcoming our first panelist, Mr. Gupta Chakraborty, India Talent Acquisition Head, Technology, Digital Analytics at Digital BCG APAC. Armed with over a decade of experience in multiple industry areas like technology, consulting, and digital transformation, Mr. Chakraborty has successfully driven reformations in talent strategy and end-to-end recruitment in tech strategy and deep tech. A prolific speaker at various forums and a regular contributor to ET HR World, Mr. Chakraborty has brought a unique perspective to conversations in the HR space. We firmly believe that he will bring to the discussion invaluable insights. Sir, we are deeply honored by your presence here today and extend to you a very warm welcome.
Thanks, Janda. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome to VISHLESHAN, sir. And now we would like to welcome our next panelist for the event, Mr. Ankur Tailang, Head of Talent Strategy, GEP India at GEP Worldwide. A stellar professional with over a decade of experience in talent acquisition, Mr. Tailang has successfully brought about high impact in organizations by his expertise in hiring the best talent. His contributions in raising the bar through a more strategic approach, through leadership and innovation, have consistently delivered value to all stakeholders. We look forward to hearing his valuable thoughts at this conclave. It's indeed a privilege to have you here with us today, sir.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Abhijit, and thank you. Looking forward to it.
Welcome to VISHLESHAN, sir.
Moving forward, we proudly welcome our next panelist, Ms. Gaurika Tandon, HR Leader, Learning Engagement and Employer Brand at Bennett Coleman & Co. Limited Times Group. Experienced in running HR interventions across multiple geographies, including India, APAC, MEA, Ms. Tandon has a deep understanding of various cultures and human capital needs. Her breadth of experience covers HR transformation through effective strategy, organization design, business partnering, talent management, human capital metrics, change and communication strategies across diverse industries. We eagerly anticipate her sharp insights, which will lend a richer and more comprehensive outlook to this discussion. We are delighted to welcome you to this conclave, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning. Looking forward to speak with everybody.
Welcome, ma'am.
Our next panelist for the day is Mr. Subrat Sharma, India HR Head and AP HR Business Partner at Rockwell Automation. With over 18 years of experience across multiple industries, Mr. Sharma has donned many leadership roles in the course of his impressive career. His in-depth understanding and expertise in the areas of organizational transformation, change management, total rewards, mergers and acquisitions, and people processes, coupled with his distinctive focus on employee engagement, have been the hallmarks of his leadership style. We are honored to have this privilege of hosting such an exemplary personality to enthrall us with his priceless insights. Here's a hearty welcome to you, sir.
Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate, and looking forward to learning from each other.
Welcome to VISHLESHAN, sir.
Taking things forward, we would like to welcome our next panelist, Mr. Shivaditya Banerjee, Head HR India at Piramal Pharma Solutions. Having had rich experience in the field of plant HR, corporate HR, and international business HR. Mr. Banerjee has worked in handling mergers and acquisitions for several international sites and setting up greenfield projects both in India and internationally. With multifaceted domain expertise in areas like talent acquisition and management, change management, and organizational development, it is a firm conviction that his rich and diverse experience will further elevate the discourse today. We warmly welcome you, sir, to this conclave.
Yeah, thanks so much for the warm welcome and look forward to the panel discussion. Thank you so much once again.
Welcome, sir. To complete this August gathering, it is now time for us to welcome our moderator for today's discussions. She is none other than Ms. Rashmi Mansharamani, Chief Human Resources Officer at the Wave Group. With over 2 decades of experience in HR across multiple industries, Ms. Mansharamani has worked with major corporate houses, making significant contributions in organization design, restructuring, building a pipeline of talent through portfolio approach and change management processes. An excellent speaker with a remarkable ability to bring forth the best out of any discourse. It is our pleasure to have you here with us today, ma'am. And we cannot wait to watch you work your magic as this event unfolds. With the panel primed for discussion, we enter into the most interesting segment of the event. In the previous edition of the Conclave, we had explored the roots of HR, deliberating the welding of trust and transparency for organizational success, and delved deep into HR innovation and upskilling. But this year offers a unique opportunity for budding managers to learn how industry veterans respond to such volatile business scenarios in a very practical setting. With that in mind, this year's theme will be centered around the virtual workplace, upholding employee well being while ensuring organizational productivity.
Coming to the core segment of the event, without any further delay, I would like to invite our moderator, Ms. Rashmi Mansharamani, to take charge of the meet.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You're audible.
Yeah. Is it a good time to begin now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So a very good morning to everyone, to Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray, the faculty, the students, and my distinguished panelists. We are so honored to be here. And like everyone, I'm looking forward to this participative discussion. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of takeaways for the students and also for us. We can learn so much from each other. And first of all, I'd like to thank you all for choosing such a relevant topic. This is a concern for all businesses today, globally. And also, I would like to reflect on what Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray said about 2-3 points that really hit me. One was that it is what Charles Dickens said, that there are the two sentences, it is the best of time and it's the worst of time. Indeed, this pandemic has been a leveler for us, and it's like the survival of the fittest. The one who runs first or the one who makes the most of this opportunity will win. So here we are today. And he also spoke about the quality cost, reducing timelines in the marketplace, and how on one side you have the human side, and the other side you the human performance, and the other side you have the economic performance, the market share. So this is all we are going to discuss today, and let's see how it goes. So to begin with, so the format is I'll speak on the topic like for 4-5 minutes max. And then I'll open it for questions. The questions have already been circulated. But in case there's somebody who wants to add some more from a different perspective, I'd be happy to bring them along in that side. There will be 2 rapid fire questions in the end. I won't call them rapid fire. I'll say quick fire questions. And then we'll see if we can have questions from the students. So to begin with, see, the pandemic has no doubt forced a nationwide experiment with virtual work. And actually, we are all part of this accidental grand experiment that is going on. So is this a new normal? This is definitely not a phase. It's going to stay. But what will happen when the pandemic is over? But right now, as we see, most of the physical world is under some part of some kind of a partial lockdown. So the virtual space has become the only way we can connect, stay informed, and most importantly, collaborate. and let's look at business leaders. Business leaders over the past few months, you can say, they've been looking at the advantages they're getting from, the virtual place is giving away the infrastructure, the logistics, and see how much, they're saving on costs. But is this a long-term benefit? The maths has not been done as yet because the productivity is still there. And will there be, what about the issues around data security and client privacy? They have to take that into consideration too. And how will companies ensure that the employees imbibe the culture? Now the culture is a virtual culture. So there's so many points. And what about the employee's perspective? Whatever the employee, okay, the employee doesn't have to travel to office, he doesn't have the traffic jams, and he's with his family, she is with the family in a cozy place. But what about the stress levels? What about the anxiety? What about the impact on wellness? So can the organizations mitigate these deterrents? So we, at this stage where we are today, we actually cannot say that, this all is very debatable. And I think only time will tell. But as of now, because there's so much uncertainty and ambiguity, and a lot of hard decisions have been taken in many organizations. So no doubt, there's a lot of people who are very anxious, stressed, and the uncertainties prevail. But on the other side, let's see, many leading organizations, they have said it very clearly that let's put the wellness of the employees ahead of productivity. The safety of my employee is my concern. The physical, psychological, and emotional, wellness is so important to me today. So without losing much time, what they have done is that they have initiated a lot of programs. Mental well-being programs are being run. And a lot of them have come up with novel ideas ranging from, say, a doctor on call, psychological counseling, virtual connect sessions, online meditation, fitness sessions, even virtual lunches. Okay, so you have both on one side. You have the anxiety on one side, and then you have on one side. But let me tell you, most organizations are really concerned. They have created a virtual work environment, but is it a productive virtual work environment? Because it's the money that's required at the end of the day, isn't it? So how do you create that productive virtual environment? If you look at a number of surveys, it clearly says that you need a very good, consistent leadership, okay? A leadership that keeps employees' growth and the productivity run together. Now, whether you're starting a new business or you're transitioning from the present to a virtual model, you need to have 3 or 4 things in mind. This is the vision, then you need to have good processes in place, and most importantly, you need to have goals, measurable goals, goals that you can benchmark, and you need to measure them, measure what matters. So this is what is there that surveys say. But what actually is this productivity? How do you measure it? Is my first question to the panelists is, what is the real productivity impact of virtual work? How will organizations ensure higher, if not the same level of productivity with remote work or virtual teams? Can high productivity be sustained over time? So this is my first question, and maybe we can start with Ankur, if it's okay with you.
Yes, that's perfectly fine, Rashmi. Thank you very much for the question. I hope I am clear and audible.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think you pretty much called out, a lot of, challenges which we have in the organizations which we are facing. Obviously, this pandemic was completely unpredictable. Companies, people were not prepared for it, right? So a lot of things people had to adapt to, right, from the pandemic perspective. Quickly turn around things, right, and impact their ecosystem, so that to ensure that obviously their employees are safe, and on the other hand, the productivity, how they measure the productivity, their clients, they all are not impacted, definitely, right? So all those things people thought about. from my company perspective, if I say from GP perspective, right? So initially we also had that struggle, because this was the first time which was happening, and we were not really sure what to do, and how to do, right? How to cross collaborate with different functions as well, right? Because there were different functions involved. There were extra parties involved as well, right? Because there were a lot of offers out in the market. We had to honor that as well, right? And to ensure that how do we onboard those people, right? To give them a flawless and smooth experience as well. And that required a lot of efforts actually, because end of it, information security and all those things comes into play as well. So we did that. Fortunately, GP, because the nature of business we are into supply chain, procurement, right? We all had that struggle of supply chain, which we saw for even meager small things which are in day-to-day life, right? So the supply chain came into big picture, and fortunately we benefited from it because our clients were in the need, and they wanted a robust structure from supply chain perspective, right? So that was a good for GP. We all went into a virtual aspect, right? So productivity, as you rightly mentioned, right? So while we were worried about our employees and we asked everybody to work from home, the IT came into picture, and they really enabled everyone to be connected, to be flawless, and to be as productive as possible. We had good understanding from the clients as well, because everybody was facing this challenge. So that mutual understanding was there with the clients as well as our employees. The people managers, it was very important aspect for all the people managers to have a balance aspect, right? So one, they are very empathetic about their team members. They are well connected with their team members, and then also ensuring that we achieve or attain the maximum productivity, right? So that's a very important aspect which every product or a people manager actually played across. We definitely have created a platform where the managers were connecting with their team members on a very frequent basis to understand how's it going for them from the stress level perspective, how's it going, ensuring that they are healthy mentally as well as physically, right? As well as defining the complete goal and metrics which were very clear in their mind, right? And then obviously measuring those metrics on a regular basis was very important. I think also as an organization, it was very important that what kind of, how are we enabling our employees, right? So for example, we implemented a work from home policy, right? Where we provided the allowance to our employees to take advantage of and be comfortable, create their own workspace at the home, right? And be more productive and their work is not impacted, that we made sure. So that was one thing which we did. And as you mentioned, right, so we had, one-to-one help, which we utilized. We also created a policy which was specific to Corona, right, to support our employees. So all those things, came in picture. The other thing which, obviously surfaced were more of ownership, which we expected from our employees, and more of trust between the employees as well as their managers. So all those things come in picture. We had a balance act between the wellness of people, where we enable them and we ensure that they are healthy mentally, physically, as well as to ensure having right metrics in place, right goals in place, measurable goals to measure the productivity. And as I mentioned, fortunately, the productivity has gone up at GP, so that's a good part. So that's what I would say.
Thanks a lot, Ankur, for your wonderful inputs. And I love the last line that the productivity has gone up. That's really good to hear. Yeah. Not many people are talking about this today, but this is wonderful. And the 2-3 points I noted, which were really good, was that you said how you maintain that balance between the wellness and the goals, how you measure the goals, and at the same time the wellness was important. and how
Correct.
managers played such an important role by connecting to the people, the connection that you mentioned, checking out on the health and at the same time checking out on the goals also. That probably helped. Thanks a lot for your wonderful inputs. And maybe now, Digwanta, can we have your inputs now on the same topic?
Sure, Rashmi. Thanks for setting up the context. Am I audible? Like my audio is clear?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Rashmi, this is specifically coming from like this pandemic, which is like a real problem statement, which is facing by each and every organization. So, when particularly this hits to India, like our CEO and the board and the entire leadership was thinking about their 3C concepts. And when we particularly look at those 3C concepts, so the first C is definitely your customer, which is your employee and your external customer. Second is your capital, which is the financial wellness. And third is your business continuity plan. So these three aspects are very, very clear with respect to how we drive our business. What are the things which we will be proceeding forward? What is the roadmap for next 3 to 6 months? And that's where the entire plan needs to be chalked out. Now, looking into that part is one of the very critical phases, your first customer, which is your employee, and how to engage them, how we can make sure that the employees are in a wellness program, they are sound, they are safe. Because if you look at our consulting business, like we traveled a lot, like 90% travel element is particularly there into the business which we drive. We have to go to a client, we have to meet a client every day. So that entire model needs to get changed now. So it's moved to a virtual world, which is a working from home. The entire meeting system, their entire connecting system with the client, the people, the employees are moved to a virtual place. So that's where the first thought which came across. The second thought which has come across, like how to engage people, like because we do a lot of party events, like there are a lot of virtual concepts, there are virtual things which need to be introduced after that, marketing events and all. So how to transform them into the virtual world. So that's the second part which we have thought through. Third is like how to continue this entire program in a long way, because we don't know still the vaccine will come, how long it will be done it through. So these are the three broader aspects as an organization we thought through. And as a consulting organization, we also like particularly involved in a lot of problem solving for the client. So that's where like the entire picture and the volume and the ball game has come to us, that how we will be driving that picture into the right frame. So employee engagement, as my friend Ankur has also particularly talked about, like performance is one of the things which is we really need to see, because how to engage people, how to make people comfortable. Wellness programs were launched, like how they comfortably work from home, how well connected with their teams, how well connected with their managers. So that's where like as an organization, we are particularly start up lot of virtual town halls and connects, where we have seen that people are well connected, teams are well connected. We try to distribute each and every team in a small group and connected on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, based on the size of the group. And then try to see that what are the problem statement they are facing, and we try to solve as much we can. The second part is we also look into their health and wellness, because the first thing which we also check that is our insurance program covered the COVID, all kind of covers which is there, because that is something very critical and previously we never thought about it. So that's something which just came to our head, and we quickly go back and check that if each and every employee is covered with that or not, because that is something which is a very important factor during this time. Now, the third point, we as an organization, because it's a global organization, we try to learn from our different counterparts in international workplaces like China, because China was initially hit very badly, and then like the other countries in Europe and US. So how they are gradually coming up, shaping up to the picture in the virtual work phase. So that is something we are trying to learn from those teams, and what to see that how they are minimizing the impact with the employee, what are the new engagement norms they are trying to put into the boxes. And third is like how they are more engaged with the client. So these are the pointers which are coming up. And yes, wellness programs, because that's not, which is not new, because everybody in this organization or like particular industry which is launching more or less for their employees. So that is something which we also thought through. And as of now, we are just thinking this year as a 9-month year, which is like initial 3 months till March, like the entire things were normal, but suddenly after April, the things get in a very, very different shape. So that's why we are just like thinking step by step as a step 1, step 2, and step 3 approach in a problem statement. So that's what we as an organization, we as an industry thinking at this point. Rashmi.
Thank you. I think there have been a lot of takeaways on this already. I've got my points written down. And what I like, what you said at the end, thinking step by step. I think this is the right thing, because right now we are only looking at the solution. How do we solve this? What if the problem changes? The problem is the pandemic. What happens to the pandemic? Then we'll see the solution will change. And this concept was very interesting. Your customer, your capital, and your business continuity plan. And how you connect with the employees, how you and that part where you said about how you form small groups, and see the problem statements and you try to solve them. And what was very nice is about that insurance part, to see that just everybody is covered, because everybody was so busy, was not many people will do the insurance part. And lastly, what you said also was said a lot more, was that to learn from other compatible organizations how they are doing it, so that we do it that way. So wonderful. Now, can we have your inputs now, Gaurika, on this? If there's
Sure.
anything additional you'd like to add on this?
Yes, absolutely, Rashmi. Actually, before I even start talking about what we did, I represent Bennett Coleman and Company Limited, which primarily is the Times of India group. So for us, actually, the lockdown never really happened. And we are an essential service. We've been at the service of the nation for really in that sense. For us, our reporters were going out in the field. For us, our newspaper gets printed every day. And unlike, we're a very different kind of an organization in a way, for consumer durables, consumer services kind of organization, just that our product shelf life is 1 day. We cannot stock up. We cannot do anything to talk about the peaks in demand and supply in the market. We need our newsprint every day. Our press has to operate every day. And our paper has a shelf life of 1 day, which means that it has to reach the customer after it's printed at 4 a.m. in the morning. Our window of supply chain is 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. because if you don't get your paper at 7 a.m. in the morning, it's pretty much going to be what we call raddi in India. So given that context, we've been, the thing that the organization really marvels at is speed and collaboration. And while speed continued from our side, there were a lot of impediments that came along the way. So what really happened was mass experimentation. We had our product coming out every single day, and we had so much, we had so many first times for ourselves. We needed movement passes, for example, when our reporters were out in the field. The press guys, the manufacturing guys had to reach the press, and generally in the night, because printing begins at 10 p.m. mostly. So they had to reach the press, and there was no public transport. So we had a lot of trouble. So I think as an organization, the business contingency planning for us was far more important. And the other strong pillar that we had is employee well-being. And we brought all of this together, and we had a lot of trouble. But I think as an organization, we've realized that this is the new abnormal, as we can call it. And we do know that we will not go back to the pre-COVID era. There have been significant transformations that have happened, which have brought us into a new world. And I really call out the word transformation, because it's not just change or adaptation. It is actually a series of changes that have come together one after the other. Some we were forced into, some we gladly adopted, some were difficult, but we had to adopt that. So we did all of that. And what's also happened is our business operating models, not just for Bennett Coleman, but across the globe, has changed. The business operating models now, as Ankur was mentioning, you were mentioning, and everybody was mentioning, and even Professor mentioned it, that today it's about sustenance. Jack Ma also went around saying that 2020 is actually a year of sustenance. You just have to keep your head above water, because there are loads and loads of organizations which are shutting shop, which are not able to sustain. They've had to take hard decisions, etc., etc. So it is going to be about managing your profits, or at some point delving into your pockets to be able to sustain. And when you want to sustain, there is no option but to keep productivity at the best. So by definition, when you're trying to control cost, you would want to do more with less. And as you want to do more, there has to be more work as well in the market. So for example, the point I'm trying to drive is that productivity is in direct correlation with the volume of work that you have. And if the volume of work goes down, your productivity goes up, then there has to be hard decisions of workforce reduction. Now that is something that as an organization, we chose not to do or keep it to the base minimum. That's the first thing we did. The BCP was important for us, which included employee wellness. So the CHRO in Bennett Coleman got another hat, and that was the Chief Wellness Officer or the Chief Health Officer. Everything that came to us as a first time, and we tried to preempt and plan for it. And as it hit us, we tried to execute and improve our execution skills. We also got we also realized that the well-being that we knew as well-being was no longer had multiple dimensions to it. So you had to have financial well-being, you had to have mental well-being, and physical well-being, because everybody is now crouched in their rooms in front of a computer. So physical wellness has taken a whole new dimension. So we did everything that we could to bring in all of these three aspects together, financial well-being as well, because there is a great requirement for that as well. So we had these masterclass sessions that we started, where we had one-to-many sessions of webinars, etc., where we got our internal facilitators or internal leaders who came and spoke. Now that really served a lot of purpose, because what happened is that the leaders also spoke about upskilling their workforce in the sense of having tutorial classes or academic classes of what really does work in the market. How do you improve market share? How do you talk to a customer, etc., etc. On one side, it was skill building to be more effective. On the other side, we had sessions where we just spoke about what is good nutrition. What should you do to manage your spiritual side, for example? We had virtual yoga sessions that we started, and we had a huge sign up for all of this. Now, the challenge is that we don't know the conversion to productivity just as yet, because the work hasn't fallen into the normal yet. Our circulation is down, our pagination is down, therefore the volume of work is reduced. So it's not really apple to apple comparison to see whether our productivity has gone up or not. But I definitely see that people have become more productive, because when you sit alone, you can dedicate a lot of your time to introspect and see what you're good at and build your strengths. The flip to that really is that while you're more productive when you're alone, you are more collaborative or innovative when you're in it together. And that is what time will tell of whether virtual collaboration is going to be equal to physical collaboration. So, Rashmi, that's what we're really waiting for.
Thanks a lot, Gaurika. Inputs. And what I've noted is that each one has so much to say, and we are different from each other, and we are all experimenting, as you said. But what you said at the end also was that productivity, you don't know has gone up or not, but people have become productive. That was something very optimistic, because I think most organizations still have not done the maths as yet, whether the productivity has gone up or not, because there's a lot of plus minus of a lot of things. But when you began, what you said was the lockdown never really happened. That really was mind blowing, because we all have been hit by COVID, but lockdown never really happened to India because of the newspaper, 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., all those deadlines, speed and collaboration, and those movement passes. Oh my God. I remember we had some deadlines, and it was so difficult to get the movement passes. So there's a lot you all have done, I'm sure, and thanks a lot for throwing so much light on your business part, and then your wellness part, and then all those yoga classes, and sustainability that you said, that yes, the sustenance is the main thing today. Whatever we do, can we sustain it if this goes on for long? So thank you very much for your points. And also you mentioned about the masterclass sessions, the upskilling. I think that is also really needs, we can also copy from you all. Thank you so much for your inputs. And now I would go over to Shiv Aditya. Mr. Banerjee, if you can give us your inputs.
Sure. Am I audible to all?
Yes.
Sure. Thanks, Rashmi, for that. So first of all, I represent the pharma industry, and definitely people think that we are absolutely insulated, from COVID-19, and we are doing, well or probably better than, pre-COVID era. But I can tell you that we are part of an ecosystem, right? If the ecosystem is impacted, it cannot happen that as a singular industry would end up doing well. So you will have employees who will have anxiety, who will not come to the factories, who will not be turning up and producing as much as you would, or for that matter, raw materials would not come on time. They would stay back at ports for long. Sometimes you would not know how to reach to the customer, how to ship it. And we are into institutional sales largely on the pharma side. So I can tell you that, for us, working from home has happened only for the bunch of people who look at sales and the corporate functions. Rest all are working in factories. And I think one thing which we've tried to instill in, these people is the fact that, like policemen, like, nurses and doctors, you are also contributing, the dutifulness and pride aspect of it. I think we've tried to build it a lot. Whoever have had problems and have still come to the factories, in spite of police stopping them for 1 hour and stuff like that, and they have still come to the factories. We've tried to showcase them, acknowledge their efforts through mailers, through video calls and whatnot. I think that is one thing which has helped, and I think that's one thing which we are also trying to build very strongly among people across Piramal Pharma. And if I speak about people who are working from home, and I can tell you from experience, I think two things I've seen happening. One is that, people are putting a lot of efforts, there's, I think the bridge between efforts and results is something that we need to cross. People want to be out of sight, out of mind. I think that's one thing which is going on in a lot of people's minds. And people are just trying to do their best, because everybody also worries about having their jobs in place, and not losing it. And secondly, I think I also came across a bunch of people earlier who used to take pride in never taking work from home. Even if the organization had that policy in place, they would not take work from home because that construct is absolutely alien to them. They are old world leaders. They don't believe in working from home. I think such leaders have taken a lot of time to convince it to themselves that it works, right? And hence, taking, that ultra focus, sitting at 8 in the morning, telling your wife and kids that, you stay away, I'm locking the room, I will only come out during lunch. I think a lot of it happened in the first 1 month or 2 months. Now that we are starting to get used to it, I think one important element which we should not forget is that, the worst is not behind us yet. And every day is a new day. We need to be very dynamic. We need to be agile. We need to keep moving. There's no time to keep thinking, whether this is working or that is working. So I think it's important that you have a very strong, lens on the output, the work, the goals, right? And believe that you don't need to patronize. You need to empathize, but you don't need to patronize every employee. An employee can see it for himself what the fact around him is, and you have to have faith in him that he can have his own solutions also. Right. So it is important that you be empathetic, you speak with them, you do genuine communication, you show your vulnerability as a leader if required. But yes, we have to collectively get the results. So I think, that's how, things have worked, particularly in our industry. Second, I think, what I mentioned about, I think people have to realize that they can't do more of the same. It's important that, with this, and, as Professor Ray said, this pandemic is also throwing multiple opportunities. Are there different ways that you can reach out to your customers? Are there different ways to engage your employees? Are there different metrics that you need to start monitoring, right? So the point is that, a lot is there to be explored. So the idea is that people need to focus on, complex problem solving, some amount of creativity and innovation, to get the results. If you keep on doing more of the same, it's not going to help you. So I think that's also one key message that we've been driving, in our organization. That's that from my side, Rashmi.
Thanks a lot. And the point that you said about, let's not patronize, let's empathize. I think that was really killing, really good. Empathy is what is required right now. And you spoke about the hybrid model. I think most of the organizations have that now, that you have some of the people working from home and some of the people in the office. Those critical jobs where you need people to be in the office, and I did a small survey and I found that a lot of people are following the hybrid model. I think, as I said, it's still a sort of an experiment. They don't want to spend too much money and be sure because they don't know what will happen later on. And you said what you said was one very important point, which I also got during the survey, was that the people who stayed at home, they made a lot of effort. They were worried, actually, they had the insecurity problem that out of sight, out of mind, as you said, is my job here? So how do I showcase myself better? So that is very important. And these are the people we need to keep talking to and, empathize with them and not patronize them. So thanks a lot for your inputs. Now, I'm sure Subrat must be impatient because he's waited for us long, and I make sure that the next round of questions begins with you, Subrat. So thanks for your patience, and I'm really waiting for your inputs.
No worries, Rashmi. And in fact, it was so good to hear, variety of thoughts from the fellow panelists, right? And I think, I'll echo, quite a few of those, right? Let me, just give it a little twist, right? Are we confusing productivity with number of hours, right, that people are putting in, right? And as someone alluded, right, and I think it was Shiva or Gaurika, wherein they said that because organization productivity has not gone up the way individual productivity or individual effort has gone in, right? So that's the way I'll start with it, right? Now, when I talk to employees, when my team talks to employees, roughly 2,000 odd that we have in the country, right? Few things people are feeling good about, right? They are saving a lot of time, especially in cities like NCR, Bangalore, Pune, right? On the commute piece, right? They are finding the flexibility to operate, based on their, individual schedules, right? We are a global organization, right? Many of our stakeholders as part of the larger ecosystem sit out of the rest of Asia Pacific or, in Europe or, somewhere in the US, right? So that requires a lot of flexibility, right, during the day, wherein people need to interact with those stakeholders, right? So that's something people are working well for themselves, right? A lot of people have, moved back to their, hometowns, staying with, their, broader families, right? Which means they are saving costs, on the, higher cost of living of, the metro cities, right? That's another very important aspect that came out during these, discussions, right? And then, there were different thoughts, which was like a mixed bag, it was contradictory as well, right? So, but at the same time, challenges, I think it was a lot to do about infrastructure, including the physical infrastructure, like, ergonomic seating or about the whole internet connectivity and so on and so forth, right? A lot of people said that, oh, the amount of time I take to connect and disconnect, during meetings, that itself is like, adding a few minutes to my meetings, right? And then people were, quoting distractions, because the pressure cooker suddenly blew up, during the meetings or those kind of stuff, right? Which are very practical, right? So what I think, these are things working both ways for different sets of employees, right? Now, when I think back, remote working is not new for us as a company, right? We have had remote working policy for, I don't know how many years, right? But at the same time, going back to what Shiva said, there were leaders, there were managers who are like, oh, my team cannot work from home, right? Oh, I can't even think about people, working from home. And they're the same managers today, even if given a chance that, do you want to bring your team back into office? They are saying, no, things are working very well for me, right? People are, delivering, my productivity numbers are getting met at a business unit level. I don't want to jeopardize the safety and health of my team, right? So that whole mindset has shifted for many people, right? And I think, these are things that need to be done in the longer term to ensure this is sustained, right? I'm just quoting a global survey that we did for roughly around 25,000 employees that we have across the company, right? A very large majority of people said that they are very comfortable if this kind of a work arrangement continues for a very long period of time, right? Or even indefinite period of time, right? Having said that, they had some expectations from the organization as well, right? So now, those are things if we are able to take care of, right? And I'm just highlighting a few of them. Definitely, I mentioned about technology infrastructure, right? We have already provided to people, who did not have, high-speed broadband connectivity wherever it was available. That's another piece, right? At home, right? At a company cost, which was not as per our, the earlier telecommuting policy, right? So these are things which we needed to change, right? Fortunately for us, being a part of global organization, our collaboration tools were already probably, if not the best, probably, yeah, I mean, at the world-class level, right? So those are things which we did not have to reinvent big time. But as I said, cultural pieces, a lot of manager trainings have happened, right? In terms of how to manage virtual teams, how to balance out your work priorities vis-a-vis your team, health and wellness, right? I think Gaurika very, nicely articulated the whole concept of well-being, which is much beyond wellness, right? So, we have been talking about well-being for not less than 24 months now, right? It was a part of my HR mission for Rockwell India, right? I think some of these things have just got probably, much better energized. That's what I call, right? I think there was some network issue at my, so I've switched off the video. Hope this helps. But I'm audible, Rashmi? Can you come?
You're audible, sir.
Oh, perfect. Right. Few things we need to change. It's about employee behavior as well, right? Why I say that? Because, us taking leaves always meant, it was a family gathering. It used to be a vacation, traveling, with family or friends, right? It meant some special occasion, right? So, festival. Now that has to change, right? People need to understand that vacation and leaves are also for giving rest to your body, giving rest to your minds and brains, right? So that's a very new thing that we are inculcating in people. People are very hesitant to take leaves, right? As so, what will I do? Some people are doing it out of sense of responsibility. Some people are doing it out of sense of fear, as someone alluded to, right? Oh, as to will I get stacked at the bottom of the performance pyramid? Right? Some people are doing just because they don't know what to do after taking leaves. They are not able to relate to this whole concept of taking leave during lockdown or during, when the office is, working, right? So I think, these are some aspects which we need to think about in the future. Leaders will have a different, much larger, accountability, responsibility. Probably, for example, already shared my leave plans with my team, with my business stakeholders here, taking the lead, right? If you want, just take this as an example, right? So I think those are the behaviors that we need to demonstrate. It's going to be a joint of, effort of the organization as well as the larger employee population. So I'll stop, Rashmi.
If there's a problem on my side, is it
Hello?
the time it was breaking up? So, not I could till you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're audible. Ma'am, your voice is breaking a bit, but otherwise
I'm audible, no? So,
you're audible. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, I could not hear Subrat in the entire thing. I just heard him for Subrat, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I think there was some network issue, and this is exactly what I was alluding to in my, thoughts, right? But let me know, till when you could follow me, and I'll try to, give a very quick summary of what I can now.
Was that, people productivity in a different very well. And what you said also about flexibility, which we had not spoken about earlier, that flexibility has been one plus point for all of us who are working, because it makes time on the commute so much in, metro cities. And you also spoke about people who have gone back to their families, so on, the other costs. You spoke about the challenges of infrastructure and in the internet and all that. And the main thing you said also was the mindset change. The people who were not even think that can I work, why will I work from home, have adapted to it. So, and majority of the people you also said were, quite happy working from home, provided the expectations were fulfilled. And you also, finally, the last thing I heard was about the collaboration tools, that you have already got everything. So there's not much that you all have to rebuild, and the manager trainings. Beyond that, I could not hear.
Sure, Rashmi, I think, you got majority of it.
Hello, Rashmi ma'am?
Yeah, I can't hear Subra.
Ma'am, if you could just switch off your camera, I think there is some network issues at your end.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
It's better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Much better.
So maybe we can start with the next point, and I'll be asking the question to Subrat. Subrat, can you hear me now? Hello?
Subrat sir? Ma'am, we can hear you. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. You got to stop my camera.
Hello?
Hello?
Rashmi, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, so can I go ahead? Yes. Okay. So let's move on to the next point before we lose the connectivity totally. So the next point that we would be taking up is the culture undoubtedly drives organization. And we positive work results in and profitability. So at this time, when we're moving from a physical to a virtual mode, the objective is to create a healthy virtual culture, creates trust, communication, collaboration, and engagement. And I think most of us, we are familiar with technology tools, leverage it to keep the employees to get that culture. And 2 points I'd like to mention before I go into the question is that what I think is what is most important right now from the point of culture is to re-emphasize the culture, take care of the wellness of that we spoke about, their health, safety, physical and mental, and most importantly, the connect. We should have some periodic communication, a communication work where we can regularly get in employees so that they are not out of touch, like mentioned earlier. So employees would appreciate this and they would rally it around the organizations. So because the employee today is not looking so much for a culture of, where he has a leader that he'd like, they are and if this psychological emotional connect not met, then it challenge. So to you, Subrat, that we, as I said, the positive work culture leads to profitability. Now, when you have actual work is happening, it keeps the organization from creating and maintaining that virtual culture. Why? Because you have disjointed teams. You have people all over the place. How do you have that cohesiveness and that get them together? People are working in isolation, in diverse environments. How do we continue to build that performance-oriented culture? That is the question.
Sure, Rashmi. I think, is one of the things which is at the top of, all senior leaders' minds, right? Whether it's HR or the business, right? Now, my point of view would be, it depends on how strongly deep-rooted the culture in your organization is. That's the way I'll start, right? If it is strong enough, right, probably, it'll get a little bit rattled, because of this change of, the way of working. But I don't think so. It'll get big, impacted on a big time, right, on a large scale, right? Probably, with time, things will again normalize, right? Having said that, there are organizations which are fast growing, which are hiring like big numbers, from various kinds of companies and industries, right? And that, there I think it'll be a much greater challenge in terms of how do you assimilate new people into your culture, right? Now, I'm saying, just giving examples, right? We have been hiring people, we have been onboarding people even at the peak of lockdown, right? What we have done, on some of the things, for example, our basic tenets of value system is people, customer, agility, right? Which is around, speed, right? Innovation, which is linked to, our pursuit of excellence, right? Integrity, right? So just to take an example of integrity, right? I think we have, in spite of being rated like, among the, top companies across the world when it comes to compliance and integrity, right? The amount of focus which we have created in the last 4 months to impart much more training, much more communication to employees in terms of compliance, code of conduct, because we know that people are working remotely, right? People are using company assets, whether it's, the technological assets, right? IT assets, right? And that's where we think that, as an organization, we have a responsibility to keep reminding of people that about the do's and don'ts, right? So that's one way how you, continue to strengthen your culture, whether people are in office or whether people are, remote, right? Now, if I think back in the last 4 months, whatever number of leadership town halls that I have seen or that, probably I have conducted, right? Business and functional, discussions have got a little bit limited, and the value system, cultural aspects have taken a big piece in our presentations to people, right? So that shows again, another way by which, we can keep reinforcing, keep reminding people of, some of the basic tenets of our fabric, right? Which is what is culture, right? What makes someone successful in the company, what, probably, does not help in our organization, right? So those are things that we are doing, right? Another very important aspect is, for example, recognition, right? It works in 2 ways. One is by recognizing the right behaviors, right? That's how you strengthen your culture. And, recognition can be done whether people are in office or remote, right? It doesn't change much, right? It's about just being more observant. It's about being, much more closely connected. And there are ways and means to be connected, right? So without getting into that, I'm just giving you an example of, what recognition could be, right? So at the beginning of the year, much before this whole pandemic started, right, we had picked up recognition as a big theme globally across our organization to focus on based on the feedback from our, annual employee survey, right? We continued on the journey. We do not let it dilute or die down because, we were just, hit by this pandemic, right? We recognized all our global manufacturing associates because they were continuously working, whether lockdown or no lockdown, right? They were putting their, health and, their family's health at stake, right? So, there have been number of recognitions provided to them on a regular basis, as well as in a much more structured setup, right? The amount of, cross-functional collaboration that I've seen in these last 4 months, that's not usual, right? And leaders have not, left it unnoticed. They have recognized, they have called it out several times, and praised the, efforts, right? Another very may not be very common, right? But among our 2,000 odd employees, a very handful of them, roughly around 15 or 20 of them, were stuck outside of the country, during this lockdown period, right? In far-flung places like Costa Rica, right? Because of customer projects, right? And we could not bring them back before the lockdown started, right? Now, the entire effort that we put in to just make sure that those people are comfortable, no questions asked about their expenses, for example, right? Managers connecting with them on nearly a daily basis. We connecting with their families. For example, one of the employees, wife was, pregnant and the due date was pretty close, right? We were connected with her on like every other day basis to ensure that, whenever she needed, we have help available for her, right? That shows our commitment towards people as a value, in our organization, right? So these are examples when we spoke about when these people came back, out of these, 15 odd, we still have 3 people who have not been able to come back because they have not got the flight, seats, right? But when these people came back, the way they narrated these, experiences over, say, our, internal, social media, or internal chat groups, right? Yammers, right? It was so much of excitement, so much of praise for everyone in the organization, right? So those are aspects that we need to keep doing. I think, Rashmi, location is just a mindset, right? I've worked with companies in the past wherein, no one asked you where you're working from. The MD used to work from a very different city where majority of the employees were based, right? So I think, that's immaterial as you look for about it.
Thank you, Subrat.
Sure.
Hear me?
I can hear you, Rashmi.
Yeah. So I think the line was that the location is a mindset. Yeah, you said it so well. It's, it's just because we have it in the mind. Yeah, it is a mindset, And how would it make a difference wherever you are? And when you began, you said a very important point is that, if you have a deep-rooted culture in the organization, it's already there. It's little you need to rattle, and the impact will not be much if you're virtual anywhere. So the culture it needs to be there from before. And but you spoke about, those, what you said about that recognition program. That was very nice that you all had started earlier before the pandemic, and how you continued it further. And whether it's an office or remote, how does it matter? You need to be more observant, and you need to be better connected. And also those experiences of your, the humanitarian side of, about that lady who was pregnant, how you all were calling her. This is so, so important. And the cross-functional collaboration and your commitment to the people. Thank you so much. The inputs were wonderful. And now maybe we can move on to on the culture point. If you
Sure, thanks. Yes, Rashmi, I can hear you, and please chat out in the window in case my video gets stuck, or if you're not able to hear me. I'll do the needful to save the bandwidth in that case. Okay, so I think Subrat said one very important point, and I would just repeat that. I think how deep rooted your culture is. It will be put to test. Right now. Because culture is there for both good times and bad times. I think that's one fundamental thing that we should realize about a culture, and the stronger your culture is, the more you will see alignment in people, and you'll see the organization moving in the right direction. However, again, I should not take away from the fact that if business models fundamentally change, it is also an opportunity for you to relook at your culture. If there are 1 or 2 tenets, which you need to be doing more, or you need to introduce, for example, do you want to become a more, learning organization, do more of multi-scaling, and use it as a cultural tenet, or for that matter, individual accountability? Is it something more that we need to define in that area? And needless to say, I think empathy, care, collaboration, teamwork, things like that, this way or the other, are always there in any organization's culture. So I think this also provides us an opportunity, maybe not these 5 months, but once we are done through these 18 to 24 months, we don't know how long it will last. I think you could see if you want to tweak, and this gives you a good high pressure opportunity to realize how robust your culture is. I think second, I would like to give you a metaphor. Can we experience the national culture sitting at home? In fact, the answer is yes. In fact, we just have our family members, 2 or 3 close friends, few office colleagues, but we all have very strong opinions about the nation and what it should be doing. Why does that happen? That happens largely because, for example, 99% of people will never get to see India's democratic leaders, the leadership or the bureaucracy who takes decisions. Still, we are able to have strong opinions about everything. And taking this metaphor ahead, why this happens, it is because media feeds us the necessary stuff. They communicate. There's a lot of communication that happens through newspapers, through channels, and that's why we feel that we are aware. And I think taking the metaphor to an organization, communication is one thing that we'll have to focus upon. If people are sitting at home and they need to experience the culture, unfortunately they can't see the office artifacts, they cannot see the wall hanging, they cannot see the rituals in the workplace, they cannot see how people smile at each other and greet, or what they wear when they come to office. All of it is not possible anymore. I'm sitting in my bedroom or one corner of my house. So it's important that we keep on communicating, and to whatever extent it is possible, how much can I pass on the rituals, the storytelling and other engagement initiatives on the digital platform is also an important thing that we should look at. And I think that's a lot that we are doing in that space. In fact, most of the organizations are doing the touch points, informal and formal, reaching out to the families. Frankly, my colleagues did not know who my wife is or who my son is. Now I can take out time and introduce them to my, or for that matter, one day it will become so normal that my son would be in front of the camera and he'll say, "Papa, you are getting a video call, and this uncle is on the call." So I think you just see that people can reach out to your home. You can see your home. You can see your family members. Those are the positive sides. We need to build upon that also. There's no better culture who subsumes the entire organization's family also as part of the organization. So I think there's some efforts in that direction also that we are trying to take. We have family reach out programs. We are trying to do family webinars. There is career counseling for children, who are not having their examinations, struggling to decide what should be their career path ahead. And I can tell you, we had one such session, and I can't tell you the next generation, the amount of questions they asked in that webinar, right from the time the career counselor started speaking, questions came, just kept coming, that how can I become a chef? How can I become a pilot? And, we are the generation who could not think beyond engineers and doctors. So I think there's a lot that you could, you'll just, it'll open up a worldview for you. I think, and it's important for you to also experience that. And I think largely this is what I would like to add. There are one or two couple of pieces, but let me keep it for the subsequent discussion. So I think that's that from my side, Rashmi, on this.
Thanks a lot, and really very discussion about the family part, where you said that you could put your son in front and say, "This is the uncle who's calling." And I read this yesterday somewhere on the net, that earlier when I would have a video call, I mean, when I used to work from home at time and again, and my child would come in the background, I would say I would shoo the child away to the next room. But now I can put the child in front and say, "Okay, hello, this is my daughter," or something. So this has changed the whole. This is like you said, there's a major transformation. And the first point, as you've said, like Subrat had said, that it's the culture, that's how deep-rooted the culture that we already have, we can carry forward. And the tweaking that you said that would require from the business point of view, that is also important, because you can't continue it that when things, the whole business market landscape changes, the culture has to be tweaked in some way. And you gave that metaphor also about that communication, how important it is, to continuously communicate. There are many organizations overseas that they have a communication framework. It's called a bulletin board. In the UN, I was working for the UN, and they had a bulletin board. That right now what happens is, if the organization writes a mail to me and I've not seen the mail, I'm out of touch. Or if I've not seen the WhatsApp, I'm out of touch. But if there's a bulletin board, it's like the board that you have in a college, or that, that gives the results. The same way you have a board that keeps on connecting to the employees. Employee knows, okay, I can go at any time and I can go and see what is there for me. So that connect is very important, like you said, the communication and the storytelling that you said. Of course, I love the family part the most, and the career counseling, as you said, was the most important one, I have to, this generation, I know, I tell you, is the most focused one. I think it's the best generation we have till now. It's so much, they want to do so much, and they're so focused, they have so many opportunities. Maybe we had, but we didn't think about them, they want to do everything, and that's really nice. So thank you very much for those wonderful inputs. And now I'm rushing a little bit because I'm seeing that we don't have much time left and we have a lot of questions. And Gaurika, we'd love to hear you.
Sure, thanks. Very interesting conversation so far. And just to the family, I think it's not just the kids, but pets are also a new addition to the entire workplace. So that's really nice. But I think I'll just be very quick because most of what I wanted to say has already been shared by Shubrat and Shiva. Well, culture actually is what culture does. So I think the only handle that we have today is the demonstration of what as an organization we really stand for. So those moments of truth are coming. So whether it was the pregnant lady who had to come back, or it's about any policy that we want to do that talks about what we really are. These moments of truth have become far more rampant, and therefore it is a responsibility of the organization to actually choose what we will do, and those choices will have far ranging impact, because employees will not forgive, neither will they forget how the organizations made them feel or how they dealt with them in the time of crisis. Because a lot of organizations can have a lot of posters up on the wall saying that we stand for you, we are compassionate, we care. But when the actual moment came where I wanted to demonstrate compassion as an organization, was I able to really touch the heart of the employee? Because it is that the employee will hold with him or her forever, and therefore will choose to stay with the organization, because these are those far reaching things that an employee will hold and will also feel happy and motivated about. Because after all, what is culture is what really makes an employee fit in the workplace. So if I think that my values and what my personal beliefs are is something that the organization supports, or the organization also believes in similar undying things, like for example, I think Shubrat mentioned about integrity, or Shiva mentioned about empathy. So all of this are baseline, and if the organization is able to demonstrate all of that, it'll really go along very well. Recognition is important. I think that's been spoken of, so I'll be very quick about it. But we've also had our own COVID heroes, and we've talked a lot about them. We've encouraged people. We've talked about their success stories. We've also found ways of bringing people together, because social distancing is not social isolation actually, because you can find moments where you can bring together virtual teams, and bring them together, not just for work, but actually for storytelling, for sharing experiences, etc. And people look forward to such events. That's been my experience with all of that. The other piece about culture really that I want to say is it's very important for you to hold that culture together, and obviously about how deep rooted that was, to be able to induct new people into the system and continue to do that. However, there are certain changes that the culture will now see. For example, being more inclusive uh, is become more challenging, because now to be inclusive, I need to include those many more people in virtual calls. If I needed decisions, I could just walk into rooms and take sign-offs and come out. That's not happening. So the actual test of all these culture elements will tell us of what is the larger purpose of the organization, of what is critical, what is important, what were the good to have things and I can do without. Therefore, I would be able to sharpen or redefine those little boundaries that I could, because of this crisis and the opportunity it gives us. Yeah, that'll be for me, Rashmi.
Yeah, that's a lot. Gaurika, you so well said, especially the moments of truth, every organization is putting, I mean, most of the organizations are putting up those posters, they are there, employee first, and then they had a pay cut, So, how does it work? Do they demonstrate that compassion, or, it's just on the posters, just want to write it? how do they touch the heart of people? And you said, right, the culture fitment is so important. We join in and we stay in an organization, it's because of the culture, and it's the culture fitment. Is that the culture that to work for? This is what we all look into. So it's very important that, this point should be looked into. And you also mentioned about the recognition, how you have awarded, your organization is awarded the COVID Heroes. And social distancing is not social isolation. Yeah, that's something that I've noted. Very good, because this was a new term for us, social distancing. We never had social distancing all these years. And so it became a sort of a social isolation, which is not the case, and how important it is to indicate the storytelling, even if it's business storytelling experiences, to hold on that culture that you mentioned was so important. So we need, as you said, we need to test what needs to stay, what we need to hold on to, what is critical and what is not. Thank you so much for the wonderful inputs, Gorika. And now we'll move on to Digwanta, who must be getting impatient by now, and I'm wondering what Ankur is doing.
Thanks, Rashmi. I believe the culture is, or in spite of saying hello or hi, we are just checking that is my audio is clear, is my video is clear when we start any conversation. So I just started with that only that will my audio is clear, the people can hear me well. So like a perspective here, Rashmi, which is like a crisis, which we feel always a great opportunity for well-run organization. And when we talk about a well-run organization, have better processes, better crisis management things, and better people. And I'm not talking about skills and education. It's more towards the resilience when a people bring to your organization, and that's where your culture is coming up. And it's more towards like the people who drive culture, who can create culture, and that's where the leaders are particularly looked at from top to a bottom level and the entire pyramid. So from an organization perspective, there are two aspects which are very, very clear during this culture shift when we thought about that trust. Because one is definitely trust. People are start losing trust on your organization, how you can just build that trust more. Because when the crisis situation comes, people were thought about like, are they losing job? Are they going through a pay cut? Is there a policy change? What will happen to their performance cycle? What will happen to their financial burdens and rest of the things? But if as an organization and as a BCG, we always thought about like how to build that trust and how to just particularly put that one dose of trust or one medicine of trust to every employee's head, that will be particularly give a better organization culture. So we never thought about cutting a salary cut. We never thought about like stopping our promotions. We not thought about to exiting any employee in any phase. So that's where somewhere like giving a message to all of the entire organization as a culture that yes, this is the organization who is not only recognize you when you particularly in a good shape, you are in a normal shape of the form, but you also been in the crisis situation, the organization is not let your hands leave alone. So that's where the trust part is coming up. The second part is thinking a 360-degree view of an employee. Like right now, what we are doing, we are just like stepping into our house and like we are disturbing the entire ecosystem. Like the kids are playing and you suddenly block your door and you said, no, you don't come here. You don't create a noise. And like that kind of environment you are creating. So how to engage and the entire 360-degree of an employee, like we created a summer internship program along with a summer, which is like a summer camp for children. So like the summer internship program, which is goes virtually for the MBA cadets. Also, we like introduce a summer camp for the kids who are at home. So like the employee who are particularly not able to engage their kids in different platform. So this summer intern. Camp was able to give them a perspective that yes, this is a engagement time where like my father or my mother can spend time with me with a virtual facilitator and a group of people. So that thing which is as an organization, we are giving a 360-degree view to an employee's company. Secondly, like we also look at like how the wellness programs are run through, like we are not only talking about like the way Gorika said, it's specifically the mental illness, the physical illness part is also there. So how the making ensure that every employee go through a proper yoga session and all, because the very go to a basic, like you're sitting for 8 hours or 6 hours in a chair, which is definitely like hurting your back at one point of time. You keep on calls, your head is on bang like a headphone, and then like it's not good for health for a long run. And as a step-by-step approach, we don't know how long this culture will run through. Try to minimize our meeting sessions. Like we put a policy that don't put any meetings more than 60 minutes at one stretch. At least after every meeting you should give a 15 minutes break, so at least people have a breathing time, get a stretching time for their body, so at least they have a relaxation into their mind and even body, and they will be more productive into their entire ecosystem. So that's where like the few nuts and bolts which we are trying to check at this point of time. And again, I'm coming back with the same point, like we are just taking a step-by-step approach. And from a society perspective, as an organization like BCG is very closely working with Government of India, and we are setting up a lot of war rooms to like creating strategy how to fight different aspect of this situation. But also we are thinking equally for our internal employees to drive in the similar way, because we don't create any product, we don't create any kind of assets. Our employees are our assets, employees are our product who can particularly generate revenue for us. So that's where like we are more thoughtful about their comfort, their wellness, and their culture to drive a trust and healthy well-being for them. So that's what my summation, Rashmi.
Thanks a lot. Wonderful inputs. Again, as you said that you were having a 360. I know you said you're having a step-by-step approach, but the first point that you mentioned about trust, I think trust is all about this whole pandemic period, and the relation between the employee and the employer. The psychological contract is broken because of space. That vacuum is created. But if you have the trust factor, it can maintain it. So how do you keep the trust? How do you get the trust? How do you give that medicine, that dose of trust to the employee, that he knows that at good times also the organization is with me and they will stand with me at this so good time, or maybe for them. And the 360-degree approach you said to the employee about the summer camp was something really new that I learned, for the children. I don't think many organizations have done that for the children. So this is I think the initiative, the organization. And the third thing that I noted, which was really good, was, to minimize the meeting time, because this goes on for hours and hours. And then there's an overlap with the next meeting. And then you're so confused, because you have not even noted down the things. So, having a relaxation time between two meetings, that can lead to more productivity. Thank you so much for your inputs. And now we have Ankur, if he's still around. Ankur, sorry for keeping you waiting. Yeah.
No worries, Rashmi. No worries. I'll just, I have facing some bandwidth issues. I'll just keep my video off while speaking. But really interesting stuff, actually, really great to hear from everyone. I hope I'm clear and audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, perfect. So really interesting aspects from everyone, I think. And I think more or less, most of the companies are doing all those stuff, whether it's about learning, well-being, connecting and more communicating with their employees, with their team members, right? All those things I can see. And as rightly mentioned, I think culture is very important aspect which switches off or on anybody who is coming over, and it's a continuous effort. It's not a one-time activity, or it's not dependent on any pandemic or something that it sustains or it changes, right? So it's an ongoing efforts, how you create that kind of environment, that kind of culture which everybody would want to work for, right? So I think for GP as well, there were lot of core values which are part of the culture which forms, and everybody is expected to live those core values while working as well and operating also, and display those, right? So for example, caring, customer obsession, innovation, excellence, right? So all those are part of some core values. However, during these pandemic times, obviously we saw some of the core values coming in forefront, and some of them coming, taking a backseat, right? So for example, caring, people, right? Communication, customer, right? All those were on the forefront, right? So we had so many of policies changing, in terms of taking care of their well-being, physically, mentally, everything. We had forums across to take care of that as well. And more so the change which we saw, obviously, the inclusion of the the family members as well, because we are working from home and we are actually diverging into their ecosystem, not working from office and operating from home, right? So now they were part of all the activities, they were part of the communication, while, for example, I'm talking to my team and my son is behind me and, interviewing in between, right? So my son also became part of the meeting itself, which my team members could see. Additionally, obviously, what we did, obviously caring and people were, primary importance for us. Apart from those core values, also we saw some of being added as well. For example, empathy, which we all spoke about, flexibility, giving more flexibility to our team members, how to operate, not really sticking to a work timing, right? So they can operate whenever they want to, that kind of environment which we created for people. Trust was very important factor, which I also earlier mentioned, other people also mentioned, right? Building a trust between your manager, your team members, right? Because you're working remotely, you're not seeing each other, right? So that becomes an important aspect. And the other thing was the ownership, right? Because however trust we have, however collaboration we have within the team, right? The end of it, the ownership lies with the employee, with the team member itself, how he drives the things, how he drives the agenda for the entire ecosystem. That was a really important aspect. There were a lot of uncertainties, right, in the ecosystem. People were losing out jobs across the markets, right? So the leadership, all the management team came together to give that confidence to their employees, right? So while we saw that it was happening earlier on a quarterly basis, some kind of town halls, we saw that change happening and those were more frequent. So now we are doing monthly town halls, right? Where the management comes together and update the employees how we are doing and operating as a business, right? What other exceptional things we are doing, which we have not done earlier. So those things which we saw a change. Important aspect for the cultural aspect is obviously, to bring that positivity around, right? Because there is a lot of negativity. We look at the news channels, hear about COVID things, people losing out jobs, people losing out in their lives, right? So it becomes very important for us to have more positivity around, showcase more positivity to the employees and talk more positive things. So that was very important aspect. From caring perspective itself, again, because since the world is getting impacted by the COVID, it was important that we also take care of our employees, right? So we created a COVID task force within the HR function. So that COVID task force, was responsible to connect with all the employees one-to-one. So we assign people to the respective HR people, HR spots. Their responsibility was to, obviously talk to them on a regular basis. So we saw almost like 28, 30 cases which came in our company as well of the employees. So it was important for them to connect with them, know how they are doing, how their health is impacted, and not really talking about work. It was just about that itself and how their family is doing, right? So they used to have a period of connect over that period when they were impacted by the COVID for a week or so or 14 days, right? So that also, was a good feeler for people that, company really cares about that. So these are testing times for all the companies actually, right? So from the cultural aspect, which will be very important for the companies to look at and, how do we sustain that culture itself. Happy to share that, while we were doing all these activities and we were thinking about how we assimilate new people into the culture as well, we also did a pulse survey of our employees, and it was really good to see that, our ESAT score, which is employee satisfaction score, went up by 20% over these times in last 3-4 months. Actually, that was a good sign for us that we are heading in the right direction, building that culture and sustaining that culture. And that was a great thing which we saw. We also did a lot of activities, as I mentioned. I mean, we did hackathons, to bring in more innovation, to have that value system in place itself. We did a lot of ideations, generating more business ideas, bringing in more impact on the technology side, because we are into technology consulting as well as services, right? So all those bringing in line was very important for us. I think a lot of cross collaboration we saw. I mean, that was a great part which we saw within functions. A lot of understanding from the managers, people managers, from the team members, right? So all those things were very important, and that's how you sustain that culture. That's how you build that culture, and encourage your employees and get them connected, stay connected with you as an organization. I think that's it from my side, Rashmi.
Yes, sure. And be ready for the next question because you're coming in first. But you had wonderful inputs. Yeah. So, Ankur, I really like that what you said about that survey. The ESAT score has got 20%. I think you'll be one of those few organizations that have had such a score during this time. People are a little apprehensive about what they give right now. And I'm sure you all are heading in the direction with a score that exceeds 20%. And the cross collaborations that you mentioned about, you all mentioned about the town halls that you all have increased the number of town halls, which is very good. That, at this time, if you can manage to have more and more town halls, connect with the people, it's very important. And the fact these are testing times, as you said, that the company really cares for them. This shows that how you can sustain the culture of the organization. And what we did similar to your organization was that COVID task force, we started that COVID. But I think yours was better than ours because the responsibility of the connect you said was one-to-one. It was not in our case. Talking regularly to people and seeing where the problem areas are there. So thank you very much for all these points. So I think we will have ask Shraddha. Shraddha, I think we'll have time for one question more.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, maybe we'll go on to the last question, and Ankur, I'll start with you. So this is the third factor. The beginning is about creation and innovation, and why it's important today, especially during this time. So, so at the onset of the pandemic, every organization went through tremors. Everybody was going through some transformation or the others, and business actually was looking for that. All businesses were looking was that how do I do my business? So broadly, if you look back now, or if you can still see now, there are three types of organization. Three types of organizations were there according to the response. So one was that they said, okay, let's see, when it settles down, when the market becomes normal, then we'll react. Let's wait for now. So these are the organizations that they're probably still waiting or they are not there anymore. The second type of organizations reached out to the customer using technology. And they were not able to reach because of the pandemic, and they found ways to reach the customer, and they were the survivors. So responding to the present disruption is actually a requirement for survival. But then there was the third type of organization, who reached out to the customer, but they adopted new models, that gave them a competitive advantage. And some of them even did cross-industry collaboration. So you can say leading is the formula for success. Actually, disruption, that you say pandemic, like Professor Ray said, that is the best of the times. Disruption, in other words, ushers in the future. From disruption comes the new. So those organizations, or even individuals, you say, that who are continuously reinventing themselves, who are innovating with creativity, agility, experimentations, are the ones which shine. So my next question is that since creativity and innovation are very important for organizations, especially because it gives them a competitive advantage in the market, will organizations be able to sustain, again the word sustain comes in, creativity and innovation in the virtual workplace? And will it be as effective as in the virtual space as it was in the physical ecosystem? I hand this question over to you.
Sure, Rashmi, thank you. I think you put down the right models in place, actually. So first, second, third, which you spoke about, the type of organizations, right? And innovation and creativity, again, as I mentioned before, that's something which is imbibed in the culture itself, right? You build a culture of innovation. You do some focus area activities. You do some, you create some models. You have those focused mindsets of people to innovate, right? And I have earlier worked with very innovative companies where their business model was around creativity itself, right? So you have to be very creative, you have to be very innovative to sustain in the market in comparison to your competitors as well. In GP, obviously, as I mentioned that, caring was one aspect of it, and we took care of it, right? So we ensured that people have healthy mind, right? So they are not stressful. And when you have a healthy mind, you have more chances of creating and innovating, right? That's what we believed in. The other aspect is, I think for a lot of companies, pandemic came as an opportunity as well, and we have a lot of examples. For example, the platform which we are working on right now, like Cisco, WebEx, or the Zoom, right? So those were opportunities for people to take advantage of, and people created and adapted to it very quickly. That was the best part about that business model they had. So I think that's an important aspect, that you build that culture of innovation and creativity and ensure that the employees are contributing towards it. Internally at GP, we also had or created those platforms internally. Obviously, one was agenda to engage those employees, the other was to generate even more business ideas and being more innovative and competing with the competitors in the place itself. So we had the hackathon, as I mentioned, where we did a hackathon for the entire technology people across the globe for us, and we generated a lot of business ideas actually. So we have a product which caters to the supply chain and procurement needs of our employees, and those were got into those technology modules, those ideas, and those were implemented, and we achieved a customer delight, right? Because those are something which we didn't think about before, but as a focus effort, we did that and added value to our customer portfolio. The other one was in the non-technology functions, which were catering to the clients and direct face to the customers, right? So we had an ideate kind of platform where people would come in for, generating a lot of ideas, business ideas, I would say. So those business ideas also, were few things from the client perspective, which we implemented, which our client also appreciated. So I think the innovation goes on. I think it should never stop as a part of the culture itself, and we should think out of the box, obviously, and we should encourage and provide that platform to the employees to think out of the box, try things out, right? Even if you fail, that's okay, but try it out and never give up, right? So that's how you build that culture of innovation. Let them try it out, let them fail, and let them execute and learn from it, and then execute it better for the next time, right? So that's the culture which we are building right now, and we are having that innovation culture, that focus, and we are enabling people to do that and providing them platform. So that's what I would say, Rashmi.
Thank you. I like the way you couple that innovation to the culture part, because you said you have a culture of innovation. And what you said in the end was, let people innovate, let them fail, let them learn from their mistakes, and then build on it. I think that's the best way. Let's not punish our people for the mistakes they make. Let them fail, let them learn from them. Let that learning. Yes, absolutely right. And the culture of innovation starts from there, and it can go on. And the other point you mentioned was very good also, that it's a healthy mind. If you're taking care of your employees, and if they have a healthy mind, then they can be more creative. And how you created those various platforms where you were not only you were looking at two aspects. One is caring for the people and generating business ideas. And people came up with wonderful ideas. We did that in our organization also. People came up with, and we awarded them. And those hackathons you spoke about, the idea platform is also a very good idea. The people come and generate ideas, and and if you can implement them, they feel more recognized. Thank you for those wonderful inputs. And now we'll come to Digwanta.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what particularly the view which I bring here, like we need two aspects very clearly. One is a high return investment strategy, which is specifically on innovation, and that particularly every organization is doing. So it's not about COVID is particularly look at and driving innovation. It's more towards like every organization is doing innovation more or less in every sector. But now this pushed the timeline, then looking into the calendar and see that, okay, fine, this thing needs to done 3 years down the line. But right now, because of entire pandemic which has happened, like that's why we need to push it for maybe this year only. So as an organization like BCG, we work like close to 11 to 12 programs, which is for a digitalization of the entire like employee life cycle. So we initially thought to break it into multiple pieces. And that was initially a plan of close to a 5-year rundown. But right now we just need to entirely relook in the calendar, and the entire that project goes so quickly, and we now step by step just like introducing one by one program this year and next year as well. So that's where like the entire value system needs to think through. The second is like the policies to sustain, like is the innovation is sustainable in your organization or not? Because sometimes what happened, like you do that and then particularly your infrastructure doesn't support your, like investment doesn't support your employee, or your business model is not like that you particularly do that kind of innovation in your organization. So that's why you have to be very careful about creating those strategy. And that's why, like, even when we go to a client, we try to understand that what is your problem statement, what is the innovation, what you need as a technology. You need a technology, or you need a realignment, you need just a think model. So those things are very, very important from a nature of organization, which you drive, which particularly your business model drives. So that's where, as an innovation point of view, I think like innovation never stops. It is always on the card. It's always on the process. And Ankur has well elaborated like the step-by-step things which has come across into the picture, the initiatives which we have done. And in my previous assignment before BCG, like I worked with very closely with a lot of innovation lab with Accenture. And that's where like we talked about like thinking innovation, like we just think how to go next, how to go next, how to go next. So these are the three key messages which Accenture Innovation Lab or any innovation thought process brings to us. And specifically, even in BCG, we always think like, what next? We never come and stop in one point of aspect, like, okay, fine, this is where we are in. We need to create a roadmap. Like, let's say this point we reach, what is the next point we need to go? Similarly, like how to change the entire recruiting model. This is one of the example which is very, very prominent, this kind of situation, like how to do a virtual recruiting, like where the campus model is very heavy in BCG. So how to get the entire evaluation process virtually. So there are a lot of tools and technology which were get involved. There are a lot of like innovation model which was created and implemented during the entire process. Similarly, the onboarding piece, how the entire transition will from a campus to a lateral, whosoever joining BCG will come to a onboarding, and it will be an employee journey which needs to be very smooth. So what things we need to done into that aspect. Third is like once they onboarded, they settle in the system, then they particularly need to be productive. So there is a very, very crucial evidence of like finding out project work. So are we are equipped enough to give a project work to the person who joined us from day one? So all this entirely a think tank, which is particularly innovation team, and I can say like right now the entire management, which is specifically driving as an innovation thought process, because we never thought about this as the initial phase, but right now we thought and we try to implement. And when we talk about implement, which is in a certain timelines, because we also don't have much time to thought about it or defer the plan, because if you defer the plan, then you lose the game. So that's where we are in at this point of time, Rashmi. So just sum it up like.
Yeah, thank you. So as you said that the innovation is already a part of your system. You're already so many programs running on innovation. Only thing that COVID did was pushed it a little bit, and you have to relook into your calendar. That's what you said. And what you said was very important, is that how do we sustain it? We might come up with some innovation. This is for all of us, but how feasible it is, to sustain it from the investment, from the business model, from the infrastructure point of view. So what are the problem statements? How do we do it? Take it in future. This is very important. And innovation, as you said, never stops. And what next? The statement that you said is that always challenging status quo and saying what next. How do I create a roadmap? And those three models that you spoke about, the recruitment model that has to change into a virtual model of now talent acquisition, the onboarding model, how you digitally onboard everybody, and the employee journey, the employee experience. Thank you so much for your inputs, and keep on the work. And Gaurika, we are next with you.
Sure. Thank you, Rashmi. So what I was thinking while Digmata was talking was that what is creativity or innovation in the end? It is nothing but our ability to solve challenges or any kind of problem with novel solution ideas or something that's never been tried before. So, why is that the timeline has been restricted? The timeline today is restricted because the current situation has thrown opportunities which we never had. So, did we really want to do a virtual induction or a virtual internship program from campus like we were talking? Well, we never needed to because the interns would come, they would come to office and they would get projects and they would get working. But this is the first time, even for us, where the interns were there, but there were travel restrictions. They couldn't come to office. So there was a problem statement, and then you had to think differently. You had to innovate. And then to Ankur's point, it is about culture. You would continuously want to throw challenges at people and see if they can think differently. It is, and you have to give that psychological safety to failure, which is also a point that we've already spoken of. That am I okay to fail, and will my organization support me? So a lot of people fail to experiment because of the fear of failure. So can you remove that fear? Can you encourage it? Can you recognize, to the first point that Shubrat was making in the beginning about recognizing the right behaviors? Can we look at institutionalizing that recognition program where I would reward you for trying something new, so long as you've got the courage and the thought process? So, what we really need to do is the entire process of implementation has to be better because you don't want failures all around you. At the end of the day, it's about bottom line and about profit. So, you don't want people experimenting different things and creating anarchy of sorts. So what you really need to do is strengthen the entire process of that entire funnel of what will you keep putting in, and eventually that one or two or three big ideas get implemented. So it's important to invest in the infrastructure of how you would use that innovation or creativity. The other piece would be that today what has changed is that work is changing, which is the nature of work. The workplace has changed because it's I just need a device and I need connectivity, and I could be actually working out of the Bahamas. It really doesn't. It really does. The physical space is no longer the constraint. So the nature of work is changing. The workplace is changing. And the third thing that's changing is actually the workforce because it's a continuum today. And what that means is that I have the choice of buying skill, borrowing skill, or building skill. And the biggest word today for me is the word borrow, which is, this entire gig world that has come along. There are freelancers that are coming along. So therefore, if I want somebody to think differently or have a fresh pair of eyes or a fresh mind, I can just go out, get an expert quickly in, and that person can do something which is actually going to supplement the creativity or the lack of it in my organization. So today the world is throwing all these challenges to you where you can continue to do things on your own, but can you bring in an external view where he or she or the consultant or the gig worker or a campus intern for that matter will make you do more with less, will make you do it differently, will give you new moments of truth and new aha moments which in monotony you tend to either dismiss or overlook. So today, the world that we're in is allowing you that experimentation. It is allowing you that extra rope to fail and fail fast and try new. It's also giving you a new marketplace altogether. Supply chains have changed. Supply chains have become virtual. Your customer has become virtual. So today we have Forest Essentials selling online. They never did. You have a lot of so Tanishq, the gold jewelry. Who did ever think that you'd buy gold jewelry sitting at home? But I can tell you, in that Akshay Tritiya day, as an organization, we had bumper issues with bumper advertising from all these retail firms that were selling gold. And you just go online, you click and you book, and after which there's home delivery of gold. I mean, who thought that that could be an opportunity? But there is. So now, if that your marketplace has changed, your work has changed, so there's no better time than now to actually think different and do different. New companies have come up, new startups have come up. EdTech is an example. Education technology, Byju's, for example, has flourished. Like Paytms of the world got an advantage in times of when we in times of when we had the currency change, etc. Now you have edtech as an industry that is coming up. You have Uberization of probably workplace. Now the co-working spaces are going to get an added thrust because a lot of organizations are getting out of physical spaces to save cost. So there's new world that is emerging. So there are new opportunities, and it's only experimentation that's going to take you there. Thanks, Rashmi.
Thanks a lot. And very optimistic things you've given. There's so many opportunities, so many new things. We need to be is innovative. We already are. And that home delivery of gold, I've heard it for the first time. It's really surprising. I mean, how things have changed, how the marketplace has changed, how the work is changing, how the workplace is changing. So, and the gig worker, yes. The gig economy is going to go a big way because like the organizations want to save on the space, they also want to save. They would not like to keep an employee for a full time for a job that is limited. Like, for example, in the construction business, I'll give you an example. If you need to work on the facade is the outer part of the building. That is done at the end of the work, when the construction is over, and it's for a limited time. So construction companies have now started hiring gig workers only for the facade part, and even for many other things that are limited. People are going for gig workers. So this, and they come up with new ideas. You said also, like you mentioned, that something you've not thought of about before. The new moments of truth. All this is so exciting. So you gave a very positive picture to the whole thing. And thank you so much. Now I think we're running a little bit out of time, so I'll rush through a little bit. And Shivaditya, maybe we'll come to you now.
Yeah, sure, Rashmi. Hopefully, I'm audible. So, I think a few things and few nuances that I would like to add here. One is that, as most of the other panelists said, I think good thing is that, this high pressure environment amidst crisis gives you good opportunities to actually, do things creatively and up innovation. Only thing is that you would realize that an average employee need not always be the most innovative and creative of sorts. And probably the demand is such that, even the person on the shop floor needs to be creative because he realizes he's on one production line and there are people who are on the other side who have not turned that day, but he has to produce production. What would he do in that case? So I think it's also important that we focus a lot on learning, reskilling, because the basic tenet that when you be more, you do more. I think that is one thing which is very important for us to build. I think that is where focus on learning is extremely important. The entire world is open to you. I can tell you there are so many webinars happening, so many good top-notch leaders speaking about their changing business models. There are webinars happening on how to open a cloud kitchen, how to become an angel investor. I think all of these are opportunities. And I think we need to look them, and we need to look at the larger ecosystem and learn from them and see what you could innovate in-house also. We as an organization are also having a lot of projects, and we call it with different names. These are cross-functional teams. You have Project Elixir, you have Project Symphony, Project Triumph, and they range from customers to supply chain to de-risking deliveries from China. And it just opens a world of opportunities, and people are excited to work here. And I think we have to be also mindful of the fact that work is the best compass. Nothing engages like work, and nothing is more successful like work. So creativity and innovation in the areas of work is very, very important, and that's what we are also trying to do. This is also time for high potential people to appear reciprocal. They need to, the reason why they were high potential, they need to show it up to us now. So I think these are good opportunities. A lot of things are getting unearthed. We have tremendous amount of learning happening, and I think we are institutionalizing it through a lot of projects. But I think I am also mindful of the fact that we are driving and I'm taking it from one of the other leaders of my organization. He often says that when you are driving in fog, only the next 200 meters are visible. And when you reach there, you see the next 200 meters. I think that's where we are currently. I think the idea of, a very long-term approach is a little obsolete. We also need to see that we survive in the short term so that long-term happens for us. So I think culturally, wherever innovation is there, I think people are the most empowered ever than before to apply creativity and innovation, and probably fail if required, right? And this is where I also want to quote Jeff Bezos. He always says that the idea is, if you have 70% data available, take the decision. I think the most important thing which is required is agility at this point. So you cannot mull over in being creative. You, even if it's a path-breaking situation, you have to go ahead and do it, and be ready to fail, and believe that decisions are reversible. You can go back to the organization and say, we tried this, but we saw that this isn't working. So it's been 2 weeks. We are changing ourselves. I think that's one genuine intent from the leadership, management, and every employee that needs to come out. That you should not have the fear of failure, and you should have strength in stating that we tried something new, but it didn't work. And at the end of the day, things are so dynamic that I can tell you it doesn't happen like that, we decide something today as a strategy, and tomorrow, if the world changes, I also tweak that strategy. So it is very unlikely that you are going to fail colossally in all your efforts. Otherwise, most organizations are not going to have such kind of people, running the show, right? So I think that's what are a few nuances that I wish to add here.
Thank you. You said a lot, and take a decision when 70% of the data is available. Well said. And agility is what we require right now. And fear of failure, like Gorika mentioned, that we should learn from our mistakes and allow the people in the organization to fail. They should not be afraid. Otherwise, they will not experiment. They will not be creative. The other point that you said was, let's not look at the long-term approach. Let's work on the short term right now till we reach the long term. And because this is the time people are empowered. This is the time because COVID has been actually a leveler. It's brought everyone to the same level. So people can all try and experiment. I think this is the best opportunity for us, and let's look at it very positively, and let's make the most of it. And as you said, this is a window of opportunities. Let's create and innovate. And like you said in the beginning, that innumerable number of webinars. If you have the time and you have the interest, listen to them. There are a lot of leaders who give us very good points. And you said about the cloud kitchen. Yes, I saw that yesterday also. Of course, my interest is not in the cloud kitchen, but I think there is a lot that one can learn. So many new things are happening, and upskilling and learning, as you said in the beginning, is so very important. So thank you. And now, Subrat, again, I thank you for your patience. And we come to this question with Subrat. Can we have your views, please?
Sure, Rashmi. I think I'll be very quick. Let me start with an example, right? During these lockdown, we had one of our very prestigious, very large Indian company as a customer, right? And they decided that during this lockdown, they kind of got an exception approval from the government to restart their manufacturing facility, right? A huge dependency was one of the applications that we had provided to them, and that needed to be restarted, right? Traditionally, that application required on-site support to start, right? Or at least the presence of the partner company, in that case, our engineers at the site, right? Now that was like simply not doable because we didn't have passes, right? Overnight, I think when I say overnight, it meant 2 or 3 days. The team simply created a remote solution, right? Wherein people sitting in their homes, they could run the manufacturing facility, they could start it, run it. Huge apprehensions from the customer. There were apprehensions, I must say, in our leadership team as well. But yes, kudos, they were ready to take the risk. It was a great partnership, right? And ultimately it was successful, right? So this is what I call creativity and innovation. Again, I might sound repetitive, Rashmi, but if it is there inside you, if it is there inside the organization, I think nothing's stopping it, right? So I'm just thinking, what has changed, right? Till yesterday, when I was sitting in office, if I get an idea, I had the luxury of just walking up to my manager, walking up to another colleague, having quick discussion, whether it'll work or not, any quick thoughts, when I'm sitting on a lunch table or over coffee vending machines, right? I can just bounce up these thoughts, right? So those opportunities probably get restricted in the new scheme of things, right? As an organization, I have a responsibility to create those opportunities for people wherein they are able to connect more informally without having a sense of fear, right? To just kind of reach out to anyone, right, in a virtual setting and discuss those ideas, right? In a real-time manner. Those are, I mean, very easier said than done because everyone is like, working in a virtual setup in meetings, right? So that's one piece of it. I'm just giving another example, right? And this is very common, right? Many of the panelists have suggested, right? So creativity is not only about creating something new, right? I think creativity would be about also adjusting myself to the new scheme of things, right? For the last 4 months, we have not interviewed a single candidate face to face, right? This is something like completely new to us, right? For us, one face to face round was mandatory until 4 months back, right? So if the organization adjusted to this thing, this new normal, or I don't want to use this term, but new way of working, that also shows creativity in the organization, in the managers, in the leadership team, right? We have been doing many things for our customers. For example, the number of e-forums that we have done for our customers, looking at this sudden need, sudden anxiety about automation, digital transformation in our customers' minds, right? Because they realize that that's the way forward, right? We simply, came up to help our customers, solve their anxieties, provided them solutions, provided them a way forward, right? And these e-forums, many of people say, call them webinars. These were like super hit. We were getting 250, 300 customers in each of these kind of e-forums, right? I'm just saying that these things can be continued, right? Innovation, creativity, again, it's a mindset, right? We just need to provide those opportunities, provide those forums to people. I think Shiva very nicely said that it is also about providing those learning opportunities, which we have been doing like tremendously in a very e-manner, right? Everything is is virtual, right? There are so many opportunities. It's not that these webinars, e-forums are happening only for external people. There are more and more number happening for employees within the organization, right? Just to give you another example, right? Who do you think is responsible for conducting employee sessions on performance management? Right? Typically HR, right? Recently, few quarters back, we had acquired a company in India, right? As a part of the integration journey, we had to conduct these sessions, on various Rockwell processes for this new company that we acquired, right? As a different thought, my team engaged managers from, experienced managers to conduct these sessions for employees and managers who were coming in from this acquired entity, right? This is a different way of doing things, right? You are building capability in your, managers. You are keeping them engaged. You are giving a very different perspective to the new company that is coming into, your under your umbrella, right? So I think these are ways and means of doing small, large things, right? And that's something which we need to continue. Lead by example cannot be compromised at all, right? So leaders have a huge responsibility on their shoulders. I think, Rashmi, that's where I'll end.
Yeah, thank you so much. I noted all your points, but what I really found different was that creativity is not about something new. Whenever we think about innovation and creativity, we think that this is a new product. No, but creativity is a new way of working also. How do I challenge the status quo and I do it differently? That was very wonderfully fair. And you gave that example about that manufacturing facility, and that was really nice. And one point that I think which is common to all of us is that, that bouncing of an idea. Earlier when we were in the offices, if you had an idea or if you thought, you would just walk into somebody's office Yeah, and or maybe you had a meeting and there would be a lot of somebody cuts you down and says, no, this doesn't work. And you say, no, it works this way. And there are a lot of brainstorming sessions. And finally you would arrive at something. That is somehow missing, I think. And you have it on the Zoom right now, but it seems like you're not even sure if it has the same impact. It seems like you're speaking to a screen somehow, and we'll have to get used to it, if it continues this way, that we will still arrive at a good decision with the screen in front of us, because only time will tell. So thank you so much for all your inputs. Now, I don't think we have time for many questions. I'll just have one quick fire round, which is a very simple question, which I'll ask each of you all. And I would request you all to give your, we'll start with Ankur, and I'll ask, and I think we'll start with Subrat now. Yes, we'll start with Subrat. And so we're going in circles. So this question I would ask you all to answer in like maximum 4 to 5 lines. Yeah? So we've looked at all the aspects, we've looked at the culture, we've looked at productivity, a little bit of collaboration, creativity. But according to you, you all, everybody, what is that one competency that according to you, an employee, an entrepreneur, or anyone in the workspace should possess that would be effective in the virtual space? I'm looking at a people perspective now. What is that one competency, just one, that would differentiate him, that he or she should possess, that would be effective in a virtual space? Start with you, Subrat.
Sure, Rashmi. I think, I've said it, quite a few times in other forums that I've attended, right? I think resilience and agility are two things that are like, much more required than it was in earlier times, right? It's not that, these were not required earlier, right? But, it becomes much more important, right? Why I say, resilience, for example, these are not easy times, right? And that's where resilience comes in. I'm just thinking back, right? As part of one of the psychometric tests that we use, right, for at least 5 years now, we have been looking at resilience or perseverance, right, as that tool calls it, right, as one of the very key dimensions while hiring people, right, especially in the commercial organization or especially in the technology development piece, because our business is a very long cycle business where it is about our sales cycle or even our product development cycle, right? So resilience, perseverance becomes very important for us, right? That becomes much more important. We can't just let things drop. That's what I call, right? New term being used is adversity quotient for leaders, right? So it's all the same thing, right? Without using a big word, simple terms, how strong I am from inside, what organizations is doing to make me stronger, right? Whatever we have spoken till now, everything is very important to make your employees stronger, more resilient, more agile. That's where I'll stop, Rashmi.
Thank you. You've been very generous. I asked for one competency, you gave two. Very good. Resilience and agility. Thank you. And I don't mind if the panelists, because we'll see which one gets the highest score. So next to you, Shiva Aditya, what according to you is that one competency that you need to have in the workspace?
Yeah, so Rashmi, I also have to speak about two. So in the virtual space, if I say, I would say adaptability. And the second is, basic faith, hope. I'm just putting it in work that this works. I'll have my own solutions. Even in the virtual space, I'll be able to collaborate and I'll be able to have results to my problems. So I think that, that core belief, I think that needs to be there. And adaptability, of course, because you are on a new tool. It's a altogether new experience. To wade through the larger pandemic at hand, I think I completely agree with Subrat. I think the two words that come to my mind are again resilience and perseverance. I think that's what I'd say. Rashmi.
Thank you. Adaptability and core belief that you can do it. Wonderful. Now we have Gaurika. What's your say on this?
I think it's the same for me. It's about agility, resilience that kind of gives you a sense of anti-fragility, because and also because you're agile, that itself gives you a whole sense of being able to deal with ambiguity, because that's what's going to be in store for not just 12 months, but probably 24 or 36 months. We've got to be dealing with uncertain times, and the best thing that you can do to yourself is be agile, learn to adapt. And what is agility but the fact that if anything is thrown at you, you're able to deal with it, and that is what's going to take you forward.
Wonderful. Agility and resilience. We all agree with that. And now we have Digwanta. What is your say on it? Would you like to add, or is it the same?
So Ashmi, my thought is, which is basically there are two like big pillars which in this situation and even going forward as well, the problem solving and the communication. These are the two things which is specifically driving all the changes, because communication, something which is like creating trust, building up any pillar, anything which is related to ambiguity, which will be only clarified with communication. So that's something which is very specific. Second is like when you understand the problem, then solve that problem. So the problem solving is the other competency which I will be like to add as my thought, because these are the two very simple points which is specifically gives a very holistic view of any of employee or any of the thing which is we are facing at this point of time. So just sum it up.
Thank you so much. Problem solving and communication. Very well said. And
Yeah, I think mostly the same itself, resilience, agility, and adaptability would what I would say. But adding to that, what in the current pandemic situation, I feel empathy or emotional intelligence is also very important aspect, which I think in the current situation will be very important.
okay, so resilience and empathy and EI, emotional intelligence. I think to sum it up, we have a lot of one. I think resilience is winning, and then you have agility, adaptability, problem solving, communication, and I'll add one to it. I think if I can summarize this, all of it together, then there's a competency which I would call as future fluent. You know, when you're future fluent, you embrace aspects, you harness the power of data and analytics, and you prosper through constant change. So it's a mindset, actually. It's a skill set also, and it's a capability. So to lead into the future, you need, of course, resilience, you need perspective, and you need agility. Resilience, perspective equals to fluency, which will in the thank you very much. I don't know what is the next step. Do we stop now, or we have more questions, or are we done?
Ma'am, we have a few questions by the students.
That was a riveting session. That was a riveting session, and I'm sure these deliberations have fanned the fire of innovative thinking in all our minds. Thank you all for such a captivating discussion. We have already received intriguing questions from the students. Before heading to those questions, we would invite our faculties to add depth to the discussion with their questions.
We would request our faculty members to kindly unmute themselves and ask any questions if they have.
I think there's some issue in connecting. Meanwhile, we'll proceed with one of the students' questions, and faculties can join in with their questions in between. So the first question is by Saurabh Kumar. So he asks, the HR community is betting on analytics, AI, NLP chatbots, and cognitive technologies as the next frontier of HR transformation. What are your views on this? Rashmi ma'am, you're not audible.
Anyone from the panel would like to answer the question? Though I didn't get totally.
I can repeat the question once more. The HR community is betting on analytics, AI, NLP, chatbots, and cognitive technologies as the next frontier of HR transformation. What are your views on this?
So, Rashmi, I can take it. I can give it a start, and then, sure. So, I think this is again, not related to the pandemic, right? Because some of these concepts that Saurabh you mentioned have been in discussion for last many years, right? Analytics, for example, has been in discussion. It has matured over a period of time with organizations' maturity as well, right? Their ability to generate data, look at the data, their general cultural attribute to be kind of futuristic, right? Many of the large people-oriented companies are, I think, much ahead on this journey compared to the more traditional ones, right? So these are things which are like, I don't think so, is too different, right? We are talking about digital and automation in all kinds of industries, right? If the business is on that journey, HR as a function cannot be behind, right? And these are few examples that HR as a function can adopt, whether it's about using bots, whether it's RPA, the rapid process automation, or using voice the technology for conducting interviews, right? Some of data analytics, definitely, with the advent of the whole analytics piece, right? I think these are things which are going to become more and more popular, right? So I don't think organization would have a choice over a period of time to not adopt these newer concepts and principles and technologies. That's the way I'll say.
So maybe I can add to that if I'm audible. Like Subrat said, that we continue what we were doing. It was already in the system. But something that has been very useful in the pandemic is the AI interviews. Like we had to hire some people. There was some replacement in the project side and in the corporate office. And it was impossible to go to the office and, you can't meet so many people and schedule those interviews. Social distancing would be over. So we had these AI interviews, where it gives you an AI score. You ask those typical 3 to 4 questions. At least you can have the first elimination round, and then you get a clip of it, and then you can send it to the project manager. This is what we have. It becomes easier. So this has really helped us in this way.
So Rashmi, I can add here, like, if you allow me to do that. So specifically what your views and Subrat's view, which are coming into that point of AI and using into as a future workplace or a future model of HR. Yes, absolutely right. Because if we look at before this situation hit us, like the COVID-19, like a lot of companies who had particularly changed their entire talent model or the HR model, like one of the primary example was Tesla. Tesla launched the entire like recruiting process through the AI model during their engineering batches at the initial phase, and that was very successfully driven. Similarly, like we also need to manage one thing, that these tools or the models are only indicators on helping us to just shorten the time frame, because these things were like initially like if I look at a careers portal where 20,000 like jobs were posted, and against that 20,000 jobs, there are like 4 million applicants are applied. Like, HR needs to like particularly screen each and every profile. That's a huge work. So that's also this chatbots, or like I can say the technology or a AI or the algorithms are help to reduce the manual intervention and the human biasness of the entire process, and equip the entire HR fraternity to take more strong and cognitive decision. And that's where particularly these tools are really, really helpful. So that's where particularly I would like to add at this, the question which was asked to us.
I'll just add my bit here, Shivaditya here. So I think pharma, being core manufacturing, compared to say other IT or service organizations in the HR analytics space, we've arrived a little late. I can say that because we are not billing human beings, to other clients. We have a core product which are our medicines and formulations. So, but I can tell you one thing for sure: analytics is here to stay, and especially HR analytics, because that's the only little core scientific, technical, tangible sort of an element of the HR domain. My only thing is that we are also finding it a little difficult to sell it off to business, because business typically doesn't look at it completely as science. And, you get statistics, you get chi-square, regression data, which is all, giving you a representative number. So we do not know. So we, for example, we've done the attrition predictive, modeling, and just shows that there are 2-3 employees who are at a risk of attrition, because it just looks at a field of data and comes to that. Now, does the business leader have the maturity to engage with that employee in the right way, to also see that amidst this pandemic and other pressures, he does the right thing and doesn't create unnecessary pressure for those people to ultimately leave. So I think some of those behavioral things which come to taking actions out of these analytics data is becoming a little important. But where some of AI and bots are getting used for data, for easing out your process, for substituting your physical process, I think that is happening seamlessly. That is being well appreciated, because it is all acting as an enabler. So, that's what I have to add. Thanks.
Thank you for answering that in detail. We'll move on to the next question by Rakshit. He asked, the research and surveys have shown that individual productivity has increased with virtual workplace. Has the team performance shown an additive behavior? And did the team performance increase by the degree which the individual performance has increased?
Well, I'll take that question. Basically, team performance is an aggregation of individual performance. So, if by the same hypothesis, if you're saying that individual performance increased, then the team performance will be then it'll bound to increase. Except that unless you have people who are falling behind, and this is not a world which is going to be very kind to people who are going to fall behind, because they will continuously fall behind in the line, and they will have no choice but to match the productivity of co-workers. And we spoke about that quite a lot in the beginning when we spoke about productivity and what is it that you measure truly in productivity. You cannot confuse, I think Shubrat made that point, you can't talk about productivity in terms of increased in number of hours. It has to be increased in monetizable output, because that's what an organization stands for. So you get to those units of what are important, and are we really being able to deliver more of those with less effort? For that, I think it's speculation right now, because we're not comparing apples to apples. The volume of work is not the same as it used to be. So productivity of the organization is what will have to be calculated first before all the other summations can really show the true picture. That's my sense.
So, just to add there, I can tell you that, there's definitely no dearth of individual efforts, and collectively as teams also, people are doing their best. So, as I had said in the beginning, there's no dearth of efforts, but is it translating into results is one important question that we need to keep asking. And frankly, if you ask me, 5 months is too small a period for us to judge that. And we'll also have to be mindful of the fact that there is a lot which is not in our control currently also, in terms of government policies, what happens to your raw materials, does it get stuck anywhere, how do you de-risk China, for our industry, there's a lot that is not there in our hands also. So, it would also be, harsh on our part to also penalize a team's output because the external environment is not conducive. So I think, mostly the listed organizations have given their quarter 1 results, at least for our organization, it seems to be okay, because of the reason that we are also slightly insulated as a business. But, I really cannot say this or the other that, the team is giving the output little more or equal to pre-COVID times. But I am very assured about their efforts. And I think that would be the case with all the other co-panelists also, I feel.
Thank you, guests, for your answer. Let's head towards the next question from Dhananjay. While working with any organization, building relationship with internal and external stakeholders is very important. But considering this new normal, where majority of the things would be happening in virtual mode, it would be tough for new joinees like us to build and maintain such relationships. How should we prepare ourselves to handle the condition like this?
So I can take this up, Rashmi. This is Digwant. So it is not about like the joiner who join us, that's responsibility. It is more towards the responsibility of our organization as well to create a smooth journey and smooth transition for anybody who coming from a differentization or a campus. So this is something, and as an organization, we as a group need to think through that during when the entire thing is getting changed to a virtual world. So this employee journey needs to be very seamless. And as like particularly I said in my previous part of the discussion, like we also as a BCG changed the entire model of onboarding as in the online process. So like reaching employee or a student, how they get their basic like a laptop, the connectivity, like their internet connection, like they get the data card or not. They get a smallest tool like a mouse or a keyboard which they required to like work. So these things need to be create a very proper checklist. That is something which like create a comfort first. Then second, from a employee perspective, which is the expectation or how to build that relationship is, yes, it's more to communicate with the organization. And like there are multiple forums which is starting up, like there are like workshops, there are training modules, there are online connectivity tools, there are virtual chatbots. So how you will engage with your organization and how well you connected with your organization, that is something which is very, very important. Like few days back, like we organized a training day, which was 100% virtual. Like initially that was a program which we run through physically, but the entire training module we converted into an online platform, and there like it's full for the complete organization where people can go and nominate themselves to take one of the training module. So that's where like the facilitator and the entire leadership also get a connect more with the people. And that's what the expectation are, that how as a mutual calibration, like organization and employee are well connected. So that's what the point of view which is coming up from my expectations.
Thank you, Digwanta. Maybe I'll add to that. Am I audible?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like Digwanta said that it's, for the new joinees, I don't think they need to be concerned because it is the responsibility of the organization, how they onboarded them. And now a lot of organization, including us, we've written the new policy that how we would onboard the person right from home till this continues is that includes all the connects, how and then we had a buddy system earlier which we had disconnected, which we're starting again. And after the person joins, we meet the person virtually after a month and ask them how they are, what are the problems they had, and the working tools. That's all a part of onboarding. So I don't think there will be any challenge for the new people. You don't have to prepare anything for that. Yes, how you build your relations is at a later stage is how you connect. That is each to his own, that how you keep your connections with people. But we would provide you the platforms for connecting, and so the organization is going to take, because it is for the benefit of the organization that the rookies stay on, and you should not have a high rookie attrition rate. People who come in should stay. So they will make every attempt to ensure that the persons are comfortable and they're well connected.
So, Rashmi and Digvanta, if you allow me to add something, I have a little, different thought. Definitely whatever you have said is perfect, bang on, right? My only thought would be it cannot be just a one-sided responsibility.
True.
Right? It's an equal responsibility of people who are coming on board, right? I'll give you an example, right? It's about being sensitive. One of the colleagues, when she joined, and she got her laptop on day one, right? But, during one of the interactions, she mentioned, oh, I got the laptop, everything was good, everything was working, but there was no formal welcome letter in that, bag, right? I mean, I was a little, intrigued by that whole expectation, right? It's a peak of lockdown, right? You are getting all the technology tools that you need to be operational on day one. You are going through a structured onboarding, right? Without being considerate for other people who are, enabling this whole thing, you are expecting a welcome letter as well, right? So that's where I think all of us need to be very sensitive. All of us need to be very mindful of the efforts that are going in, right? As new joiner, I have probably an equal responsibility to understand the company, right? May be required to take those additional steps to build those connects, right? Contacts, connects, right? Maybe extra hour to learn the nuances of the organization, right? I think this is what I would expect from people who are coming into the team as new on boards.
Thank you.
So I'll just add, 3 points from my end, and I think Digvanta and Rashmi covered very well as to how the organization will be needful to ensure that you have a smooth onboarding. But taking Subrat's point ahead, as we say, tali dono haath se bajti hai, it's also important that the individual takes some amount of preparation. The first point, I take it directly from Subrat. I think you need to come, come accommodative. Don't come with a sense of entitlement. You're not going to get everything on a platter. All of us are struggling. Our energies are everywhere. We are still trying our best to ensure the best, onboarding. But there might be few things which might get, few balls may drop. And the idea is, as long as it is manageable, it's not something really bad or something humongously, horrible. I think you should be accommodative. So that's one. Second, I think, again, as I said, that you have to have faith in the fact that you will be able to, you don't sensationalize it in your mind that, it's a virtual work environment. I don't know. I'm not able to understand. The more you do it, your mindset will go for a toss. You need to have a very strong equanimous footing, and you have to believe that you'll be able to contribute. And do not think that you are just experiencer of the organization's culture. You are also a contributor of the organization's culture. And this technology gives you that right pivot and the right platform to do it. I'm telling you, a lot of face-to-face induction we used to do, and one leader or the other, one business leader would not be able to come because he's in a meeting. But when I'm doing it online, I think all of them are making it a point to arrive. If they don't end up coming in a meeting, I'm keeping a separate half an hour slot with them, with the interns or the new joiners. So the idea is that everybody is making out time. And more importantly, we are also noticing that a lot of power structures that were physically available for new joiners to see, that, if a very senior person sits that side, juniors only sit on the other side and stuff like that, all of that is also getting diluted. You don't get to see it for real in the digital space. So the idea is also look at the positive side. These all things will help you adapt a little better and become and contribute. I can tell you, we took IIT interns, engineering interns. We also took from IIT Kharagpur. They all had plant-based projects. None of them could go to the plant because of the lockdown. 2.5 months they've worked completely from their home, only talking with people and analyzing data. The kind of project presentation they have done at the end was out of this world, and we were all pleasantly surprised. and we as employees do not have that much confidence in us as some of you students, because you come with a very fresh perspective. So believe in yourself. I think that's one important message that I wish to also convey.
Very well said.
Thank you, guest, for giving a perspective about how our journey will be in the corporates in coming days. And we have received from Ankur sir that he is facing some connectivity issues, so he'll be joining in a moment. And in the interest of time, we'll be taking one last question from Sankal. His question is, what could be effectively rewarding mechanism to be adopted in the virtual workspace that can help keep employees motivated and give them a direction to move forward?
Sorry, could you say the question once again, please? I missed it completely.
What could be effective rewarding mechanisms to be adopted in the virtual workplace that can help keep employees motivated and give them a direction to move on?
Like, I have an answer, but maybe I would like you all to go first.
I can take that, Rashmi. So actually, there are different things that motivate different people, and recognition is a vast subject, and it is not subject to whether it's virtual or it's physical, because when you look at multinational companies, they work across shores, across time zones, but it's not like people were not being recognized. People continue to be recognized for the good work that they do. For an organization, it's important to identify the outcome or the behavior that we want to recognize. And the celebration is actually something that can be fluid. What is more important is what you're getting. Because I was reading this article the other day which says that if you continuously pat someone's back, how much of that recognition is going to be over recognition? Because you need to keep something which is special aside, and you continuously want to encourage everybody. But when it really comes to recognition for accomplishment, it has to be something so big and impactful, either in the form of effort or in the form of something that you did out of the ordinary, or pleasantly the actual outcome, or a combination of both. So in the virtual world, nothing is going to really be different. But what is different right now in the current world is the fact that there are a lot of opportunities where people have the opportunity to do something different, and therefore get recognized for the the speed that they showed, or the collaboration that came front, or something innovative that resulted in either extra revenue or reduction of cost or profitability or sustainability, etc., etc. So the opportunities for performance have increased, therefore the opportunity for recognition has increased, but the medium or the forum of recognition is fluid, and should not be mixed with what you're recognized for. Yeah, Rashmi, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I was thinking, I think this is my answer. It was recognition. Only you gave a better explanation. I won't have been able to explain it so well. So, but we ran what we did? We did small things, because, sometimes when you run a program, say of recognition in the organizations, there are people who are shy, who move away. They don't have the confidence. So, but that everybody works on it. So we ran a program. I'll tell you a small program where he said that every activity is broken into different tasks, at the project level, at the site level, everywhere. So if any of y'all can reduce one of the tasks to make it more cost optimized, or to save on time, or to bring something to make it better, then we will look into it and we'll incorporate it. And you will not believe, we had people at the supervisor level, people at a very, very junior level, they came up with, they said that, ye aise karte, this is wasting, it can be done in a lesser time. And we had a lot of entries, and we incorporated those, we changed our SOPs. So I think that was the type of recognition, and those people are so happy that, we are part of the system. So it's not only monetary benefits that are important, it's that how you recognize, because what they have done now forms the SOP of the organization or that activity. This is what I want to say.
So, Rashmi, I can add this, what you had particularly bring it a very interesting perspective. So in BCG, we run through a program called Wanted. So like it sounds little scary at the first phase when it was introduced, but particularly we try to celebrate a small like achievements of employees who are doing and running an extra mile. So initially, like we picked up 2 wanteds for every month and each and every offices of BCG, and then we put the poster entire month into the cafeteria and in the reception, and then particularly in the meeting boards and all, where like people can see that these guys have done and move to extra mile, no monetary recognition, but giving a people recognition that these guys have particularly done an extra mile to their entire work. And that's also like initially we saw a very small limited entries, but gradually when this program was full-fledgedly run, so we have like over flooded with like nominations, and like we particularly in a stage where we have to be very cautious that who is going to be wanted for this month and who is not. So that's a like an encouraging problem to be solved, but people are very well appreciated at the fact even like a small poster across the board is really transforming and putting them and pushing them to do a lot of additional work which they particularly think through to do in the virtual workspace.
So quick add, Rashmi, I know we are running short of time, but I think there's a great opportunity, and I'm extrapolating what all of you said till now, right? I think there's a great time to introduce, if you don't have already, the concept of total rewards, right? Of which recognition is one part, right? And this struck me from the word reward that came in the question, right? Because I think companies are doing so much in today's scenario, right? That needs to be leveraged, right? Employees need to be kind of reminded, saying that okay, everything is for them, right? Monetary compensation, core, non-core benefits, right? Those are one aspect of it. But the learning opportunities, the career opportunities, this whole recognition stuff that you spoke about, all of this come under the basket of total rewards, right? So this is a great opportunity wherein we can create something more of a communication, a package that can be positioned to employees to showcase them that in a comprehensive manner, this is what they are receiving, right? And best ideal scenario would be if we can create flexibility in that basket, right? An employee in a certain age group may have a certain preference, right? Maybe retirement fund would be a higher preference for a certain employee age group vis-a-vis, my fixed salary, right? And vice versa for some other age group. Do we have that kind of a flexibility, right? So these are additional aspects of total rewards that over a period of time, organizations will have to build, in case, that they want to attract diverse talent, they want to have gig workers and whatnot.
I just quickly add my 2 cents here. I think all of you in your theory would have read about extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. So I think, in terms of the outward rewards, in terms of monetary rewards or recognition, which leads to you getting something in kind, etc. I think that there's limited that organizations are able to do also. However, informal recognition or formal recognition, which does not come with a big commensurate reward, is something which most of the organizations are doing. However, intrinsic motivation also comes from the quality of work enhancement, and I'm telling you, this is a great opportunity for, to put people in the fore, to give them more challenging work, to make them do more, be more. I think we'll have to focus on the intrinsic motivation aspect also, at this point in time. And I think that is one of the things which most of the organizations anyway are doing. They may have different terms to do so, but I think that's one thing that all of us are doing.
Thank you, guys. With this, we
Quick,
have...
actually, so sorry, I got disconnected. I just re-logged in from my phone. Quick add from my side. I mean, I think most of it is covered by everyone. I think the only aspect which I would add would be, apart from the total rewards philosophy and, doing a recognition, I have seen some mode of recognition changing as well. So I see more and more recognition coming on the social media platforms, for example, right? So I see that happening, that trend, that change happening on the LinkedIn, for example. You would see a lot of people recognizing people, kudos, all those things. That's some change which we can see right now. The other thing in GP, for example, we just don't only recognize people for their work or other aspects, but we also recognize people for the values they are living in. Since we touched upon the culture and values part, we also recognize, and we have given we have introduced an award which is called a core value award, and whoever is living to that and people are nominated on that, we award them on those core values, whether it's innovation, whether it's customer obsession, caring. They have gone out of the way and done that. So I would say recognition is important, but it should be something very impactful right now in the current situation, so that it encourages the person, but it doesn't discourage the other people as well, right? That's how I would put it across. Thank you.
Thank you, guests. With this, we have come to the end of question and answer session. Thank you for patiently answering the questions.
For good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction, scrutiny, and debate. Today's discussion has reaffirmed the significance of adaptive workforce development and disruptive thinking in a changing economy. The wheels have been set in motion for novel ideations in HR innovation and upskilling in these times. On behalf of the Vinod Gupta School of Management, IIT Kharagpur, we express our heartfelt gratitude to our erudite panel, whose path-breaking insights and pristine thoughts have left us spellbound. We would like to express our deepest gratitude to all of you for such a sublime experience. We are also thankful to our respected Dean, Professor Pradeep Kumar Ray, and all our faculty members for their presence and unwavering support. Finally, the Vishleshan 2020 would not have been possible without such a lively audience. We appreciate your enthusiastic participation.
Winding up the day's proceedings, we once again thank you all for taking your Sunday mornings off to be a part of this momentous occasion.
As we stand on the brink of digital transformation that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another, we sign off on an ambitious note and promise to present a newer set of perspectives for the next event. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen.
I request the students to leave the meeting for post-session proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. The students will be leaving the meeting in a few seconds, and then we'll proceed on to the faculty and student committee interactions.
So thank you so much. Really appreciate. Yeah. Looking forward to meeting many of you guys.
Yes, sir. We have the faculties on board right now in the meeting, and we'll begin the interaction in a few seconds.
Abhijit, can we get a quick, 5 minutes bio break or
sure.
nature?
Sure. We can. Sure, sir.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
I was listening to expert panelist viewpoints. Okay, so nicely presented, and I have learned a lot from them. Okay, the present scenarios, particularly from the HR perspective. Now, in this context, I have just one or two or three specific questions, and I'm sure that the experts panelists will be able to, will be able to clarify my doubts. Okay, so time, you have any time to spend 5 to 6 more minutes on this? I'm curious. In fact, there are a lot of okay. Now, some new concepts, say a virtual workplace, suppose. Create a virtual workplace, ensuring that organizational performance is assured, as well as, the organization becomes human. Human. Those are the two important issues. Sometimes, this might be conflicting with one another. 100 such instances. When I go through the history of our industrial systems for the last 200 years or 300 years. Now here, normally, if you apply new concepts, and normally, when you try to implement the concepts, one is the quantitative one, highly mathematical one, and the second one is the qualitative one. Now here, if our model is Japan, Japan is a country where they say it's, anybody can be a capitalist. The country of 100 capitalists, they used to say. And the best of the East and the best of the West, both you can see in Japan. And, whatever the new techniques they have proposed, they have documented it. It's very easy. You have to go through, like single minute exchange of dice or GIT-based techniques, automation and all. Now, similarly, I want to know, we talk about AI-based tools and techniques, AI-based, like say, the machine learning and all. It's not that the first time the Western industrial world is talking about automation. In fact, automation, the concept, continued with, like say, it started in early 50s, like the CNC, then the DNC, then all sorts of things they have applied. And then FMS, flexible manufacturing system of varieties. And this flexible manufacturing system is 100% automated. So it's a new one. But then again, the late 80s, there's a reverse trend. Like the Japanese, what they have adopted, that you first tell me whether it is an appropriate technology or not. If it is a dangerous operations, heavy material, okay, or the shipbuilding and all, definitely I will bring in robots. Otherwise, I will not do. Getting my point? That means there is an appropriateness, any technology we adopt. So now the question is, I would like to know, actually, you also try to these details, that how they're adopting, how these Japanese organizations, they're adopting AI. Okay, or the machine learning. Yes, there could be certain information you collect from the Western world. Their conditions are different. Their history is different. Okay, and but what do you find, like a populous country like ours? Okay, they've already studied it. In fact, when I was visiting Japan in the 90s, so they were saying, sir, we'll be creating one 100% automated factory system in year 2001. Is it okay? Now today is 2020, right? Where is that news? In fact, there's a reverse trend. They say we'll adopt, say, the automation only when it is essential. Otherwise, we'll not do. Because ours is a populous country. Okay, there are studies, in fact, like one caterpillar is equivalent to 200 persons private life. It's getting my point. There are many such studies, in fact. Now, my question is, what is their opinion regarding implementation of AI? This is point number one. Point number two is, these days, all other leadership, any organizations you go, today there's a lot of changes have taken place. That means it was initially aristocracy, then it was a democracy, and today it is the world of technocracy. Very clearly mentioned, in fact. Now, obviously, the level one leadership is not applicable. I presume that, what is the level one leadership, level two leadership, and what is recommended today, that is level three leadership. Okay, so I just want to have your opinions, or expert panelists, to what extent, when you try to create, say, virtual workplace, whether it is possible to implement level three leadership or not. Okay.
Sir, before getting to the answers, can we have a presentation by the students, since we are running a bit short on time?
Right. Okay.
Sure,
So if they're here now, only I just want to know their opinion.
Sure, sir.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
So I think we'll hand over the meeting to Omkar and Prachi from our student committee, and we'll have the faculty interaction as well. Besides this.
Hello, Abhijit, can you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, Omkar, you're audible. Omkar, you're audible.
Yeah, the screen is okay, right? You can see
Yes,
the presentation.
Screen is okay. Is Prachi here?
Yeah, he's also there. So if the guests are okay, we'll start with what we wanted to present them with.
Sure, let's go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the session. And it was really an insightful discussion about what we might go back to, like what the new workplace is going to be. So the presentation is actually about, we would have definitely loved to host you all at the campus and probably have a short trip of the 2,000-acre campus that we have, especially at this time of the year. But unfortunately for now, this will have to do, but we certainly look forward to hosting some of you, if not all, on our campus someday. So we'll give you a small brief about the institute, about the course that we have, and basically try and give you a glimpse of what we would have presented to you if you were at the campus. So VGSOM was the first B school in the IIT ecosystem, which was set up in 1993. And the foundation for the school building, which you could see in the first slide, and even the video which we presented earlier, was laid in 1994 by the then president, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma. So the institute was created with a vision to build a center of excellence in management education and research, with a specific emphasis on technology-driven industries. And moving ahead over the next 27 years, VGSOM has tried to collaborate with all the industries and basically align the course and curriculum so that we can provide the industry with what the needs of the evolving times are. So on those lines, in the year of 2000, VGSOM tied up with the Royal Danish Embassy in Dhaka for mid-level managers. And 2010, there was an executive MBA program started exclusively for working executives. In the last few years, we have focused on building this strong collaboration with organizations, and with their feedback and their constant touch points, we have been able to revamp and revise the entire curriculum to align more with the needs of the industry. Now, these efforts taken by the institute have been appreciated by our corporate partner. Saw in the video, we have been commended by the ranking agencies as well. So the NIRF rankings for the year 2020, which are given by the Ministry of HRD, ranked us at number 5 when it comes to B schools in India, which is a rank up from number 6 in the last year. Also, the QS World University rankings has ranked us at number 7 in India when it comes to business and management studies. So for the past 4 consecutive years, QS rankings has ranked VGSOM as one of the top 10 B schools in the country. So with this strong vision and a collaboration with the industry, the institute has been able to attract some of the best talents for this flagship 2-year MBA course. The batch of 2021 has an average pre-MBA work experience of 25 months and shows a healthy representation from some of the Fortune 100 companies of India, such as Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, Hindustan Unilever, Maruti Suzuki, Ashok Leyland, TCS, Wipro, Reliance Industries, Adani, Deloitte, JP Morgan Chase, to name a few of them. The batch shows a healthy mix of students from varied engineering backgrounds, as you can see. We have been combined with their previous industry experience. We have been able to offer a lot of diverse roles for the summer internships when it comes to domains such as consulting, sales and marketing, analytics, operations, the banking and financial services industry, and also in the niche domains of product management. So when it comes to consulting, we have our partners such as PwC, Accenture, Wipro, who hire regularly through the campus program. Becton Dickinson, Titan, and Texas Instruments are some of the industries which hire in the sales and marketing domain. Tiger Analytics and Ford have been our regular recruiters when it comes to analytics. Ford has also been a regular recruiter. Amazon, Sutherland, Delivery have been major recruiters when it comes to the operations domain. And when it comes to the banking sector, we have had continuous association with the Reserve Bank of India for the internship program, along with HSBC. And JustPay and JioSavan also have started offering roles in the fields of product management. Prashi?
Thank you, Omkar. So to take it forward, to strengthen the curriculum and complement the pedagogy, IIT Kharagpur has also tied up with Singapore Management University for an international immersion program for MBA students. During the program, the students undertook dual projects, one under the aegis of SMU and the other under corporates such as Citibank, GSK and Lennicard. Students have also had an opportunity some real-time and niche projects in the domains of project management with GSK, financial literacy programs with Citi, market research and strategy with Lennicard, econometrics, cost of living index with TBS, and analytics with Bondi Value. Evolving curriculum to go up the national and international business practices has definitely helped the students outshine at various corporate competitions too. So during the international immersion program at SMU, one of our global runner-up at Stock Track, that was a global portfolio simulation competition. One of our students was also awarded with the runner-up position in Business Standards Best B School Project Awards 2020. Our students have also shown this growth through their performance in several other corporate competitions by reaching the national finals and semi-finals of premier contests such as HUL Lime, Titan Elevate, Reliance TUP, L&T Outthink, etc. The continued faith of our recruiters has been a testimony to the growth of our students and the quality of our program. We witnessed last year one of the most successful placement seasons for the batch of 2020, wherein we were able to achieve 100% placement days, a record placement season for the campus. We also registered the highest CTC, 29 lakhs on campus. The average CTC of the final placements had grown by more than 10%, and the median salary stood at 16.99 lakhs. Consulting was the biggest domain of recruitment, followed by operations, Sales and Marketing, Analytics, and BFSI. The placement season saw participation from the consulting houses of McKinsey, PwC, Deloitte, CS Associates, IBM, and Accenture. From the operations domain, we got offers from Amazon, Blackbuck, NinjaCart, and Vedanta. If we talk about sales and marketing domain, Titan, Crompton, Texas Instruments, and Arvind were the most sought after profiles. Our regular recruiters, such as Ford, Tiger Analytics, Virtusa, offered us roles in analytics. Whereas in the BFSI sector, it was participation from Bloomberg LLP, ICICI Bank, IDFC Bank, and Kotak Mahindra Bank. So, to conclude this, as a part of our Industry Academia engagement program, we reach out to various eminent enterprises, such as yours, to keep ourselves synchronized with the requirements of the industry. Kindly share the feedback of our campus with the recruitment team and kindly connect us with them. We assure you that, given the opportunity, our students would perform best in their abilities and add values to your organization. We hope to build a strong association with you and forge a mutually beneficial relationship with your esteemed organizations. Thank you once again for your precious time, and we look forward to hosting some of you for our final placements and summer internships. Thank you.
Thank you, Omkar and Prashi, for that wonderful presentation. If we can have the faculty members who would like to interact with the guest, we can proceed to that. I think Prabina ma'am is there.
No, I am there. Abhijit, I am very much there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
I think Professor P.K. Ray had asked a question. Maybe I would, maybe that question could be, taken up first.
My question is very, okay.
Prabina ma'am, on your end. So while Professor Ray is speaking, if you can go on mute. Okay, ma'am. That's better. Sir, you could continue.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Yeah. So now.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, the experts are still on the line. Experts, panelists.
Yes,
no?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, they're there. So I've just, for a general discussion, I've raised the two important issues, and then you can. My purpose is, see, the new jobs are created, okay, and certain old jobs are, or the jobs become obsolete, and new jobs they join a company, depending on new product development, depending on new process development, and obviously the changing in the business scenarios. Now, as far as HR function is concerned, they are at the front. They know that what is the business scenario, what is the employment opportunities and all. And suppose the employability part, from the HR perspective, employability part of, say, MBA student, is it okay? So, to what extent it can be, employability can be improved in today's context. Okay, what we should focus? Today's context is what kind of the scenario we're passing through. And many companies are at the back to the wall situation. Getting my point. So now, obviously, we hope that all these the companies will also see the light of the day very soon. So if we can get an ideas from our HR experts, it will be very nice of us to proceed further. Getting my point. This is my. And when you talk about job opportunities in today's context, here, there, everywhere, you feel like going, isn't it? So that's why, say, employability in, suppose, with respect to the Japanese companies, with respect to, say, the European companies, with respect to African companies, South American companies, we should be aware of it in today's context. Indian companies, obviously. Okay, so that's my point of.
So I can take this as Dr. Ray, if you specifically allow me. This is Digonto from
Yeah.
Boston Consulting.
Yeah,
So
please.
there are two, I just want to take the first point, which is like how the other part of the world, like apart from Japan and the European world is doing. So that's specifically a very interesting topic. And there was a recent study which HBR was also published, which is specifically talking about that initially, like in 2014, 15, like Japan was very aggressive in terms of in the technology space. And right now there is a slowdown into their conversion into AI and analytics and moving into the spaces of the chatbots. So that is something which is specifically even we as an organization like BCG, we also like work with our Japanese colleagues and try to learn a lot of like attributes. There are one perspective which is clearly come out with the culture, which is Japan running through. Like Japan is like if you look at is a very closed netted culture based organization, and the data privacy, data security laws are very, very strict. So when you like moving into a AI or a analytics data platform or a cloud kind of a space, then you have to be open up. Like if you taken an example, your entire university, and specifically if you want to put the data into cloud storage, then you have to give an open source, and the entire like cloud will take your data into an internet platform. So are you comfortable to do that? Because that's something which is as a or like a country like Japan is facing a challenge to convince, and that's why they come with a program called Society 5.0, which is specifically they try to convince their traditional leaders that this is what the need of the hour and what we initially committed to the society, that this is the technology next steps. We need to be like moving to the next generation technology, which is like AI, chat, like cloud, all this. And then specifically that's what the program they are running through. And that's where they feel a very strong competition like from the European countries and all, because they are quickly like open up their databases, and where the organization are more sustainable into terms of their cyber security and other norms, where they give a more flexibility to like all these AI and chatbot companies to implement the analytics part. And that's their help them to do and use the logical predictive analytics more useful into their business model, where like Japan was struggling. So that's where one of the perspective, but they also have their own benefits, like they have their technology advantage, which is specifically a very, very superior technology drives. Because I was working with my initial part of career with NEC Corporation, which is a Japan-based organization, and I was based out of Tokyo for close to 4 or 5 years. So the technology what we are currently looking into the world, that was initially like implemented and experimented by Japanese way back. So that's where they are way advanced in some of the technologies which we are still trying to operate. And even like if I refer back to one of the example of BCG, like one of the best like office premises which is still in BCG in Japan, because we have a virtual robot who greet you and then particularly take you to the entire office tour, and then it converted your language, like specifically if you even talk in Hindi. So this robot can talk in Hindi, they can take you through the entire schedule, like what is the day plan for you. So that's something like they are still way ahead of like which we are thinking and try to implement in multiple ways. So that's the first part of it. Now the second part is like regarding what are the things which is specifically in this situation students should do, or like as a organization what we are thinking. So which I'm keep coming back to my previous point, like there are two very critical aspects when we recruit any of the candidate, like the problem solving and the communication part. So the students or anybody needs to like think about the problem first, structure it, and then solve it. There is no rocket science behind it, because these are the three very, very basic key elements. With
respect to that, sorry, I'm just changing my audio setting.
So you're audible. You're audible, sir.
I'm audible, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what I was saying that like the problem statement needs to be identified, because situation comes and people need to understand that what is the problem statement which any organization, any industry is facing, and anybody who can come with a solution. So that's why the problem solving as a skill or a competency is very much in demand. Then the second part is communication, that once you particularly understand the problem, how to communicate to the wider or a larger group. So these are the two aspects as a competency which we are keep focusing on, and particularly when we look into the next level of job market. So definitely technology is taking up in a long way. We want people to learn new technologies, but these are the two basic things will always remain the same in the entire pyramid, and that will always click on the top of the boxes. So that's where I sum it up, Dr. Ray, if like particularly help you give a perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the answer.
Any other questions you wish to take us that, or I could also respond my 2 bits here, but yeah, I'm also cognizant of the time that we have in hand.
Sir, we had a question from Prabina ma'am.
Sure.
If you would like. Ma'am, you're on mute. Prabina ma'am, you're on mute.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible now.
Ankur, Diganta, Subrat, Sivaditya, Rashmi, and Gaurika. It's a wonderful session. In fact, I'm glued to the system for the last from 10:30 onwards, and it's quite engaging and interesting session. Specifically, I have taken note of some of the interesting observations which you all have shared. Basically, do not patronize but sympathize, empathize, and organizations should create a culture of safety for failure. And another very interesting thing which was discussed at one point of time was adversity question. This is something which we have. I am hearing for the first time, and thank you very much for this session. But what I am going to say is basically not a question, just an observation. In fact, every year, this HR conclave or VISHLESHAN kind of a session has been a very, very important day in VGSM's life. We prepare for months. Students go to airport to receive guests, come back to the guest house. Our auditorium gets decorated, flowers, mementos, diyas get, lighting of diyas are done. And, all boys and girls who will be moving around like zombies one day before, and next day they will be men and women in black, all, immaculately dressed. And all professors, we look forward to meeting you personally, interacting all of you. There is no 4G issue, no 5G issue, no bandwidth not being available, and videos getting shot. This is not something which we wanted to happen. But as Rasmi very rightly pointed out, that we are making the most of it, and considering the COVID situation. And I will end my note how I wish all of us had a magic wand to undo this COVID in a day and come back to the way we were living and meeting and interacting the way we used to do. And with this note, I'm hoping that in near future, we'll be able to have the opportunity to host you at VGSM IIT Kharagpur. And in fact, after the HR conclave, all our dignitaries stay back, go cycling in the campus, go bird watching with the students. Maybe, we'll have the opportunity to have the similar kind of experience with all of you in very soon. Thank you very much for this wonderful and engaging session.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think, this is also an opportunity because I can tell you that not all 5 of us would have been able to make it to the campus, certainly if it was to happen physically. And it's a Sunday and we are staying at home, and that is one of the reasons almost all of us, preserve our Saturdays and Sundays for some kind of a communication like this and to contribute to the larger, academia and society. So, this is also a positive side. I've been called by your campus earlier also, but I had to say no to it because I couldn't find time. This time, we've been able to do it. So I think somehow we'll have to get used to it. But yeah, certainly, I miss to see the campus. I think there's a lot which has been said about the campus, and I wish not only the Kharagpur platform. In fact, that's also one thing that I wish to see, the longest one, and the campus also someday, ma'am. I think we'll not have all these, brilliant students around in another year or two, but I am assuming that certainly we can come and these people can join us as alumnus.
And also, can I add something?
Yes, Sivaditya, you are an eternal optimist, I could see, and
Thank you.
But I would I would have loved to personally interact with you on a one-to-one basis rather than on a platform where, of course, we are making the most of it, as very rightly pointed out, but there is no denying that what we would have learned by all of you being at VGSM would have been, it's unparalleled.
Sure.
Thank you very much. I think
can I add a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so adding to what Professor Praveena Rajiv said, I would just like to add, first, good afternoon to all. Very nice session, very engaging, and really something which we could all relate to during this time. During such times of the pandemic, we did try. Of course, you're most welcome, all of you. But there was a small attempt on our part to at least to go through the campus through the video. So that video itself gave you some glimpse. But all of you are really welcome to join us at Kharagpur. We will invite you again, and hopefully we will get to meet face to face.
Thank you, Sangeeta ma'am. Rashmi ma'am, you were saying something.
I just like to conclude by saying I think it would have been difficult to get us all together, 5 of us, as Shiva said, under one roof. It was, I think, let's look at the positive side of it. And as Professor Ray said, that is a tale of two cities. There's the best time and there's the worst time. I think this is the best time, maybe. And it was really insightful. I enjoyed moderating the session. I think the answers were very insightful. I was actually, little worried in the beginning because they're a big group, 5 people and me, 6 of us. And how would we bring so many perspectives? Maybe the students would get bored. It would be repetitive or something. But everyone had their own perspectives, and it was so, I think, thoughtful and thought-provoking. And I think there's been a lot of takeaways for the students, which is the primary reason we are here, and also takeaways for all of us also. I mean, there were so many examples, so many things that I can imbibe in my organization. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Any of our faculty members or guests wish to add something more, we'd be happy to hear your thoughts.
So hi, this is again. I just want to add one last bit. This COVID thing just helps to virtually connect, and this is a big platform. And as my friend Shiva and Rashmi also said, it's not possible to fly down during all of us during the schedule which we manage. So this is something, a Sunday morning session and followed by afternoon, which is really helpful to connect. And we also learned a lot, to be honest, which is from 5 of us as a group, as I understand, a lot of perspective from different industry. So this is equally a learned opportunity for us. So I am particularly hopeful to see more of kind of this initiative run by your organization. So happy to be, and really thankful to the people who are within the scene. And I know there will be a big team who are working behind the scenes. So, like the way we watched a movie, so we can only see the actors who are participating on the front camera, but there will be a big team who are starting from like rehearsing and point 1 to a point 2, a point 3, driving in each and every point. So that is really commendable. And I know the things are not as like easy, which is in the normal stances. Like you guys are also working remotely and studying, so that's particularly recommended. And really, I feel awesome to join this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
May I have one observation, please? I'm Sanjeev Chaudhary, Professor Sanjeev Chaudhary, under Professor.
Yes.
I have just one observation. Thank you. I am watching you from since 10:30. There's all those panelists and all the questions answered and all perfectly very well. That it was pertinent to the topics: the virtual workplace, HR conclaves, organizational productivity. These are in the for virtual workplace context is fine. Now I will just go a bit. Just an observation, go a bit. HR's job are also not only in the virtual, they can do virtual places and all, but HR in the core industry, suppose the power plant is operating, that's why we are holding this meeting and all. Steel manufacturing, steel plant. Then the oil and gas industry, the productions of oil, refineries, those are you have to be in the plant, and their HR's roles are totally different. You cannot be only in virtual place. You have to be there. So I was the HR head of a Fortune 500 company in the oil and gas industry. Their main problems are of different dimensions. Like it's a acquisitions of land, because you have to drill the well, and for that acquisition of land, one of the toughest thing you must so in the villages, if it is in the forest, you have to give the forest clearances, environmental clearances. So it's a, but you have to get it every month. You have to go for a land acquisitions, and the laws are different for different states. It's in northeastern, in something Tripura, it may be something in Gujarat, it may be something in Maharashtra. It's totally different. And again, if you are posted in the say terrorist areas, you have to arrange for the security. The people who will be going for the drill site or the plant location, production location, commandos and the security people will guard you. Otherwise, you will be finished. All those things are more of, you have to be on the ground. You have to be, there is no, and virtual workplace will be very limited to those HR functions in those areas. These are also give you a broad aspect for the students, that the HR is not only for the that virtual workplace. It's fine, you can, for certain service sectors and all, you can work from home, away from home. But the core sector, the coal mining is going on, the iron ore mining, everything is going on. There he have to be, HR has to be in the workplace, and these are, you cannot be having only virtual. So you should, students especially, you should also look at HR in this perspective also. You have to be along with the people. Okay, and even in this COVID situation, if you go to the refineries and all, those are working fine. You cannot stop those. Oil production you cannot stop. Steel production you cannot stop. It's working, and HR is also embedded in that. You should look at it that way also. Okay, it's just an observation, but for the, given the topic, virtual workplace and all, it was a wonderful sessions, and we all enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views with us. We have shot over time a little, and thank you to all the people who stayed back. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, guests, for a riveting session. It was really great listening to all of you, and thank you all the faculty members. I would like to thank the family members also for coordinating the session with us, and we hope that this is the beginning of a deeper relationship with your organizations, and we hope to see you in campus as well sometime soon. So thank you all the guests, and thank you all the faculty members.
Professor Bishudu goes this side. I just want to conclude. I just want to thank from the deep core of my heart to all the panel members and the moderator Rashmi. It's a wonderful session. And from the PlaceCom, I am requesting all the panel members to please plan your visit to our institute. And it will be really great experience for us to have you with us and to show you our infrastructure and to have a one-to-one interaction. So I look forward for a meeting, and I'm sure this COVID and others will be over in next 3 to 4 months or 6 months time. So this is an open invitation from VGSOM to all of you. Please do come and please be our guest, and we'll be happy to host you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, and wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rashmi, for moderating it well.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone. Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day ahead and stay safe, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean, sir, for joining us today. Thank you, all the faculty members.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, students. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
A big round of applause for the students. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here, sir. Thank you for the encouragement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.